Chapter 857. Yiqing Luo wasn't surprised that Shangguan Liuli was targeted by the dark forces. She vaguely sensed that the dark forces were attacking the people around her or those who were about to approach her. The hatred that Shangguan Liuli had for her was enough for the dark forces to make use of. However, Yiqing Luo had not expected Shangguan Liuli to be swallowed by the dark forces so thoroughly. In order to surpass her and take her life, he did not hesitate to sell his own soul. TSK. You can still trust your leader when he's facing you with his sword. Should I admire your ridiculous sense of brotherhood or should I laugh at your stupidity? The corners of Shangguan Liuli's lips curled up into a cold smile. The black aura around her body grew denser and denser. Yes, I was the one who controlled your guild leader. I wanted to see you kill each other. I didn't expect. You actually stopped that little girl from killing your guild leader. She clicked her tongue and said with a face full of pity, otherwise I would be able to watch the show of you killing each other. Shangguan Liuli could control Long Yunjian? She actually had the ability to control Long Yunjian? Could it be that Shangguan Liuli had not only signed a soul contract with the dark forces, but also made other deals? Bitch. I'll scratch your face. Kitty Lee angrily clenched her fists, and her hands instantly transformed into two huge black cat claws. Like a nimble cat, she slapped towards Shangguan Liuli. This bitch. How dare he make fun of them? Long Yunjian was actually obsessed with sex. If it wasn't for her elder sister stopping her, wouldn't she have become the world group's sinner and even her elder sister wouldn't like her anymore? Kitty Lee's jet black pupils suddenly flashed with a bewitching luster. In an instant, the two eyes that were like stars in the sky became extremely demonic. Her emerald eyes were sparkling and translucent, emitting a powerful killing intent. Shangguan Liuli snorted coldly. She raised her black eyes and waved her arms casually. A gust of mysterious yin qi shot out from her arm. It swept up a smoke-like black gas and eroded towards Kitty Lee's direction. Kitty! Yiqing Luo shouted, come back. Kitty Lee was no match for Shangguan Liuli. Yiqing Luo had once come into contact with the profound yin qi from Yiqing Qian. It was extremely strange, as if it had its own consciousness. Yiqing Luo could feel it clearly. The mysterious yin energy seemed to be interested in Kitty Lee. Did he want to take the opportunity to devour Kitty Lee? Yiqing Luo's eyes turned frosty, her palms flipped and the red feather fan swiftly struck out a strong airflow. At the same time, when Kitty Lee heard Yiqing Luo's voice, that pair of devilish eyes instantly reverted back to its normal color. Immediately after, Kitty Lee's petite body rolled in the air and stood on the rock wall like a cat. The strong airflow which Yiqing Luo struck out collided with the profound yin qi. Rumble. Once again the tomb shook and the mountains shook. Pieces of rubble collapsed. The surrounding rubble, due to the collision of the two forces, formed a whirlwind in the air. Yiqing Luo flew up and stood firmly in front of Shangguan Liuli as her hands moved and once again a majestic profound qi was raised. The profound yin qi was instantly forced to retreat. Shangguan Liuli staggered as she retreated a few steps, but the smile on her face became even more strange. No wonder student Yi is so loved by the overlord. After your profound jade heart was shattered, you were still able to recover your profound jade heart in such a short period of time, and your profound qi also became so majestic. Chapter 858. Using her profound heart jade as a topic of conversation? Or did he want to drag Dmo Shen down with him? From the profound heart jade that Dmo Shen had nurtured, a profound heart jade was formed and integrated into her heart. This was indeed a type of forbidden technique. However, so what if it was a forbidden technique? Did Dmo Shen look like someone who would follow the rules? Even if the matter of him using the forbidden technique was made known to the world, Dmo Shen would not even frown. Don't forget, Nirvana Realm's #1 palace was Dmo Shen's Emperor Palace. It was known as the #1 evil palace. Would Dmo Shen care about what the secular world thought? Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly. Even if Shangguan Liuli was completely engulfed by the dark force's mysterious yin energy, it would not change the fact that she had big breasts and no brains. This mocking sneer stimulated Shangguan Liuli's nerves. The smile on her face froze and her expression instantly turned sinister as she laughed sinisterly towards Long Yunjian, the world group's group leader. Come, kill your companion and let me see your loyalty. Long Yunjian, who had been standing there without moving, slowly moved his slender figure. The blue long sword in his hand slashed down towards the world group's direction without any hesitation. Leader. The world group's mercenaries cried out in panic, but no one dared to stop him as they could only scuttle around in all directions to avoid Long Yunjian's attack. Long Yunjian did not show any mercy. The speed at which he swung his sword became faster and faster. For a time the entire tomb fell into chaos. The mercenaries of the World Group continued to flee. Shangguan Liuli was delighted to see this scene. Her eyes, which had been painted with gold powder, had already turned into a thin golden line from her smile. Ah, interesting. Isn't the feeling of being attacked by your beloved and respected guild leader? His words had just ended when Long Yunjian's slashing figure had already neared Yiqing Luo. He was also expressionless. The hilt of his sword shimmered as he raised his arm and chopped down. Roar! A sharp beast howl was heard, and Shiju, who was originally flung out to protect Yiqing Luo, pounced forward once again. Even though it was a phantom beast. But when it came to human emotions, it still understood a little. It did not open its mouth to bite Long Yunjian just because Long Yunjian attacked its master. It roared and pounced on Long Yunjian with its huge leopard claws, knocking him away. Long Yunjian's body hit the rock wall. His face was expressionless and his gaze was calm. It was as if he could not feel the pain. Shiju, come back. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly widened as she immediately opened her mouth to summon Shiju back. She saw that Long Yunjian actually propped up his tottering body and directly attacked Shiju. His entire person was like a puppet controlled by his desires. A puppet that had completely lost its soul. Shangguan Liuli's gaze was filled with complacency as he laughed out loud. Yiqing Luo, this is the spirit of brotherhood that you're so fond of, but if you make use of it slightly, he wouldn't even know who you are. Shangguan Liuli, you will pay for your actions today. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with murderous intent as she clenched her fists tightly. His long, narrow, and bewitching eyes caused one's heart to tremble with fear. Disregarding Long Yunjian's body, he forcefully controlled Long Yunjian. Just to see them kill each other. Just to make use of Long Yunjian to kill her. If it wasn't for Yen Xiaoyi who helped her to block that sword, she would not be able to evade it. By then, when Long Yunjian regained his consciousness and saw this scene, how devastated would he be? Thinking of Yen Xiaoyi, the murderous intent in Yiqing Luo's eyes grew thicker. Chapter 859. Yiqing Luo didn't reply as a trace of viciousness flashed past her eyes. Her 5 fingers opened up as the red feather fan spun around her fingertips, like a leaping flame or a fiery butterfly spreading its wings. But as soon as she turned around, Yiqing Luo's figure disappeared. She appeared silently behind Shangguan Liuli. The red feather fan on her fingertips was like a raging flame as it waved out a strong, profound qi. How could Shangguan Liuli's reaction keep up with Yiqing Luo? Until the profound qi neared, Shangguan Liuli still hadn't noticed it. But Shangguan Liuli wasn't terrified. On the contrary, the expression on her face was calm as though she wasn't afraid of Yiqing Luo's speed. Just as Yiqing Luo released her profound qi, it directly hit Shangguan Liuli's chest. The profound yin qi that lingered around Shangguan Liuli, under everyone's incredulous gazes, directly wrapped around Yiqing Luo. That's right, wrapped around. Like a densely packed big net, it wrapped around Yiqing Luo's arm. Apparently, Shangguan Liuli had been waiting for Yiqing Luo to fall into the trap. No matter how Yiqing Luo attacked or how close she got to her, the profound yin qi surrounding her would engulf Yiqing Luo at the fastest speed. Looking at the profound yin qi that was like black smoke, instantly enveloping Yiqing Luo's arm, Shangguan Liuli's complacent and ruthless smile grew thicker. Yiqing Luo's expression was calm as her narrow eyes narrowed, a boom sound was heard from her palm. A burst of powerful energy suddenly erupted. Like a tide, it actually forcefully controlled that profound yin qi in her hand. Shangguan Liuli's complacent smile instantly froze on her face. What are you trying to do? To panic? Yiqing Luo's narrow eyes were suffused with a trace of coquettish luster. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and despise. Yiqing Luo, who had crossed hands with the profound yin qi, naturally understood that the profound yin qi had its own consciousness. And this consciousness was very likely to be the real mastermind who brought the profound yin qi over from the dark forces. Trying to swallow her? She wanted to see if she was the one being swallowed or the profound yin qi was controlled by her. Ever since Dmo Xian appeared and formed a new profound jade heart for her, Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that the profound jade heart in her body was different from before. As her strength grew. Previously, the profound heart jade could faintly feel that the profound heart jade strength was not as strong as it wished. And this profound jade heart was clearly more capable of containing and absorbing the profound energy lingering within her body. Dmo Xian had specially forged a higher-grade profound jade heart for her. The child profound heart jade she formed was not her own profound heart jade. Even if his strength reached it, he would not be able to raise the level of his profound jade heart. If the profound heart jade had to rely on DMO Shen to constantly form and upgrade, let's not talk about whether it would affect DMO Shen. Even if it was her, because of the profound heart jade, she would only be able to display half of her strength at most. Her profound heart jade had to be retrieved as soon as possible. Yiqing Luo's eyes darkened as she increased the strength in her hands and broke through the restraint of the profound yin qi. The feather fan in her hands pierced right into Shangguan Liuli's chest. Ah! Shangguan Liuli let out a painful scream from her throat. He felt a sharp pain in his chest and blood immediately gushed out. She could even hear the sound of the feather fan piercing into her flesh. The surrounding profound yin qi speedily formed a protective cover, enveloping Shangguan Liuli tightly. Following that, it forcefully forced Yiqing Luo out of the protective cover. The world group leader. Shangguan Liuli cried out in terror. She had not expected that Yiqing Luo wasn't afraid of the dark force's profound yin qi. Wasn't this profound yin qi able to swallow everything in the world? To Yiqing Luo it was totally useless. Chapter 860. Hearing Shangguan Liuli shout, Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth and immediately withdrew the profound qi that was used to break the profound yin qi and swiftly retreated. In the next second, Long Yunzhan's sword qi had already brushed past the place where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier. Long Yunzhan waved his long sword once again as the sword waves surged, with an earth-shattering force, directly charging towards Yiqing Luo. At the same time, Shangguan Liuli moved her palm, and countless black gas spun rapidly in her palm. A powerful wave suddenly erupted from his palm. Yiqing Luo's pupils constricted. Long Yunzhan's participation had unknowingly become Shangguan Liuli's shield. She was bound to be restrained in this battle. Long Yunzhan had already injured Yan Xiaoyi. If he hurt her again, with Long Yunzhan's personality after he wakes up, I'm afraid, damn it. Shangguan Liuli actually used such a despicable method. Yiqing Luo secretly clenched her teeth as she had no choice but to dodge, speedily evading their combined attack. Qing Luo? Not knowing when Xiao Jin had already replaced Kitty Li and was holding Yan Xiaoyi in his arms. His thick palm gently caressed Yan Xiaoyi's pale face, his expression extremely ugly. Especially when he saw Long Yunzhan coordinating with Shangguan Liuli's attacks, striking out at Yiqing Luo, his expression turned even darker. He clenched the gold coin dart in his hand tightly as he gritted his teeth. Qing Luo, if group leader knew that you were injured because of him, he would definitely feel extremely guilty. Don't go easy on him. Xiao Jin was the clearest about Long Yunzhan's feelings towards Yiqing Luo. He believed that Long Yunzhan would rather sacrifice himself than to see Yiqing Luo getting hurt. Especially, he had injured her with his own hands. Yiqing Luo had been worrying about Long Yunzhan, and if she only defended and not attacked, then she would be at a disadvantage and it would be easy for Shangguan Liuli to take advantage of her. The rest of the world mercenaries nodded in agreement. Under Yiqing Luo's strong request, not only could they not go up to help Yiqing Luo, they even had to maintain a certain distance from Shangguan Liuli. At this moment he could only stand by the side and worry. The profound yin energy surrounding Shangguan Liuli devoured profound practitioners as food and turned them into her own energy source. There was a high possibility that it would devour the world group's mercenaries. Yiqing Luo naturally didn't dare to take this risk. Long Yunzhan seemed to not know fatigue as he chased relentlessly. The sword waves that slashed out from his hand were also more ferocious with each wave. Suddenly Shangguan Liuli muttered something. With her as the center, the mysterious yin qi on her body began to spin like a whirlwind. It was getting faster and faster. In the end, it surged towards Long Yunzhan's body. Ajan. Yiqing Luo's pupils dilated as her red feather fan flicked. Like a cold glint flickering sharp blade, it shot toward Shangguan Liuli, trying to cut off the profound yin qi which was surging towards Long Yunzhan. However, the profound yin qi seemed to have guessed that Yiqing Luo would do this. A wisp of mysterious yin qi seeped out from the swirling black qi, directly blocking the devouring flame fan. Ugh! With a grunt, Long Yunzhan, who was releasing sword energy, suddenly stabbed his sword into the ground and stumbled to a stop. Behind him, a mass of extremely dense mysterious yin qi was seeping into his body at an extremely fast speed. Ajan. Yiqing Luo was forced to retreat a few steps. That wisp of mysterious yin qi intentionally obstructed her as it kept splitting out numerous black smoke, attempting to devour her. Until the mysterious yin qi completely entered Long Yunzhan's body. The black qi around Shangguan Liuli became thinner by a little. Chapter 861. A large amount of profound yin qi was transmitted to Long Yunjian. The wound on Shangguan Liuli's chest, which was pierced by Yiqing Luo, lost the healing ability of the profound yin qi. Instantly, a ball of blood started to gush out. Her face was pale as she raised her hand to cover her chest, using her profound energy to stop the bleeding from the wound. As she raised her head and laughed out loudly, "Yiqing Luo, let me see, will you resist with all your might and kill this group leader of yours, or you can't bear to do it and eventually die under this group leader's sword? Despicable. Shangguan Liuli, you're simply too shameless. Our group leader will wake up. He will not be manipulated by such a hateful woman like you." The World Group's mercenaries were all infuriated. They clenched their fists tightly as their eyes were filled with rage. Right. Group leader will definitely wake up. Group leader. Group leader. Suddenly, some mercenaries started to call out to Long Yunjian, attempting to use their voices to awaken Long Yunjian's rationality. Long Yunjian's strength was already deeply ingrained in their hearts. They believed that Long Yunjian would not completely forget his original intentions because of the so-called profound yin qi. They wanted to awaken their group leader. One of them raised his head and the other mercenaries were stunned for a moment but immediately understood what he meant as they started to shout out their group leader loudly. "It's no use. No matter how you shout, he will forever be my puppet." Shangguan Liuli laughed maniacally, as though she had already seen Yiqing Luo being sliced into pieces by her own trusted brothers. "Shout, shout all you want. Let these people, when they were filled with hope, be killed by their own brothers personally. This was the best revenge towards them. Who asked them to be that slut Yiqing Luo's followers?" Diamo Xian stood by the side as his purple robe fluttered and his black hair fluttered without any wind. That pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes were as deep as a lake, as he gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo's every action. He knew that the current Yiqing Luo had already been infuriated by Shangguan Liuli. Yiqing Luo wanted to personally take revenge for Long Yunjian and Yan Xiaoyi. He only needed to stand by the side and watch on how his little Luo grew up. Long Yunjian, who was enriched by the profound yin qi, became even more vicious. When he raised his eyes to look at Yiqing Luo, his azure blue eyes were already covered with a layer of black fog. It was blurry and indistinct. Yiqing Luo's heart was overwhelmed with shock as she swiftly retreated backwards, gritting her teeth as she roared angrily, "Shangguan Liuli, you actually did this." The fact that Long Yunjian was mysteriously corroded by the profound yin qi had already made her extremely furious. Shangguan Liuli actually dared to forcefully inject profound yin qi into Long Yunjian's body in front of her. Her charming eyes were sharp and filled with killing intent. She looked at Shangguan Liuli fiercely. "I can't let you live." With a leap, the feather fan in his hand blossomed like a blazing rose at the tip of his fingers, and he slashed it horizontally towards Shangguan Liuli. Powerful profound energy covered the sky and covered the earth, enveloping Shangguan Liuli. However, in the next second, Long Yunjian, who was launching an attack towards Yiqing Luo, his figure flashed as he speedily dashed towards Shangguan Liuli. He actually didn't release the slightest bit of profound qi, using his flesh body to block this attack for Shangguan Liuli. It was obvious that Shangguan Liuli had not given up on her intention to have them kill each other. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth as her fingertips, which were gripping tightly onto the feather fan, had already turned green. She naturally couldn't let Long Yunjian block this attack. Immediately, her feet moved and her palm flipped as she set up another protective cover, blocking in front of Long Yunjian. Immediately, her body was already close to Long Yunjian as she stretched out her hand in an attempt to hook Long Yunjian's arm. Just as she stretched out her hand, that originally expressionless Long Yunjian suddenly flashed as he speedily shifted behind Yiqing Luo. Chapter 862. Qing Luo. Be careful. When the crowd saw this, they cried out in shock. No one had expected that Long Yunjian would use his own life to lure Yiqing Luo closer, taking the chance to take action on her. No. To put it more accurately, Long Yunjian's current actions were all controlled by Shangguan Liuli. Shangguan Liuli, that bimbo princess syndrome patient, how could she possibly become so intelligent? Was it Shangguan Liuli who controlled Long Yunjian? Or was it the profound yin qi that controlled Long Yunjian? Shangguan Liuli gave out a sinister laugh. Because of Long Yunjian's retreat, and because Yiqing Luo went to block the momentum of the profound qi attack, she was stopped by Long Yunjian. With a swoosh sound, Yiqing Luo released that red profound light, as it shot past, striking Shangguan Liuli's body. However, Shangguan Liuli seemed as though she didn't feel any pain, as she continued to laugh maniacally. Her body flew out as she rolled onto the ground, but she was still laughing. This scene looked extremely strange. A kind of thing called fear started to run amok in everyone's hearts. The air was filled with dust and gravel, as though it was testing everyone's patience. Kill her. Kill her. Shangguan Liuli propped up half her body, as she gave a sinister laugh as she gave the order. Long Yunzhan's long sword was pressed against her neck. Unless Yiqing Luo killed Long Yunzhan in reverse. Otherwise, Long Yunzhan's sword would take away Yiqing Luo's head. No matter which outcome, it was the outcome that Shangguan Liuli wanted to see. Long Yunzhan's arm moved as the long sword, which was emitting a blue glow, slashed mercilessly. Ashan. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold. At this moment, the profound yin qi in Long Yunzhan's body was getting thicker and thicker. If she didn't wake Long Yunzhan up, then Long Yunzhan would become the profound yin qi's food. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly, as her footwork was immediately displayed. Her body leaned backwards as she avoided Long Yunzhan's long sword. Perhaps this body of Long Yunzhan had already formed a conditioned reflex. The instant Yiqing Luo moved, Long Yunzhan's long sword also followed closely. Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly, as she speedily raised her glower flame fan to block against the long sword. Bang! The weapons collided, stirring up a huge wave of air. The cracks on the ground had caused countless mercenaries to lose their footing. Long Yunzhan was expressionless as he continued to charge forward, not minding whether his long sword would be broken by Yiqing Luo's glower flame fan. He only blindly pushed against Yiqing Luo's glower flame fan, pressing forward. Yiqing Luo retreated little by little. Damn the dark forces. It was obvious that he wanted Long Yunzhan to gamble with his life. Yiqing Luo tightened her grip on the fan handle and swiftly struck out two powerful wind blades. What should I do to force the profound yin energy out of Long Yunzhan's body? Diamo Xian must know. Her gaze coincidentally brushed past Diamo Xian, who was standing by the side. His doting gaze had been following her closely. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly trembled. Right? She had once said that she would rely on her own efforts to stand at the pinnacle of the world, to walk side by side with Diamo Xian. She could not always rely on Diamo Xian's power. Wasn't it because Diamo Xian believed in her ability that he stood by the side and allowed her to display her abilities? How could she possibly let Diamo Xian down? Yiqing Luo's gaze instantly turned resolute, as her palms flipped and her body had already closed in on Long Yunzhan. She must first awaken Long Yunzhan, before she could deal with Shangguan Liuli. Yiqing Luo sorted out her thoughts and was just about to restrict Long Yunzhan's actions, taking the opportunity to force out the profound yin energy from his body. But unexpectedly, Long Yunzhan also moved towards the sound. Immediately he crashed into Yiqing Luo. Chapter 863. A dull creak sound was heard. Yiqing Luo acutely sensed that her back had bumped into something. She speedily released Long Yunzhan and pushed him backwards. This force instantly made Yiqing Luo's body sink backwards. Not knowing why, that rock wall actually split open and swallowed Yiqing Luo entirely. Lil Luo, Such a huge change made Diamo Xian's calm expression congealed. He quickly rushed forward as he stretched out his hand to touch the spot where Yiqing Luo had disappeared. What his tentacles touched, other than the branded rock wall, he didn't feel anything. Overlord, Vice Group Leader he. The World Group's mercenaries behind him also rushed forward as their faces were filled with worry. Diamo Xian's face congealed as he didn't respond to their words. A pair of long and narrow eyes like obsidian quietly stared at this rock wall. After a long time, he directly raised his hand and struck out a strong palm wind, blasting towards the direction of the rock wall. A burst of earth quaked and the mountains shook as gravel shattered. But he didn't see any signs of the hole which had swallowed Yiqing Luo earlier. Diamo Xian's expression turned even darker and steely green. Yiqing Luo's body kept on rolling down as pieces of uneven gravel pricked her slender brows. After rolling for a few rounds, she finally crashed onto a piece of rock wall as her body stopped. A thick incense burner's smell instantly filled her nostrils. The surroundings were pitch black, and even with Yiqing Luo's night vision, she could only see a blurry outline. She rubbed her body, which was hurting from the collision, as she creased her brows and sat up straight. Just as she was about to get up, she suddenly felt an inexplicable burning sensation in her heart, which instantly filled her chest. Yiqing Luo's legs turned soft as she fell onto the ground. Bursts of scorching burning feeling was even more unbearable as compared to the profound heart jade's unusual reaction, so unbearable that she couldn't endure it at all. What was going on? Dmo Xian had just helped her to form the profound heart jade. How could it possibly cause a backlash so quickly? Yiqing Luo panted heavily as her 5 fingers clasped onto her heart, wishing she could dig her heart out to relieve this pain. Last. Don't let your imagination run wild. Just as Yiqing Luo was having this thought, an anxious voice rang in her mind. Old Man Song said in a deep voice, "Girl, calm your mind and maintain your rationality." Yiqing Luo's breathing was heavy as she shut her eyes tightly. Her pearly white teeth bit her tender lips tightly. Old Man Song, what exactly is going on? This unbearable feeling was hundreds of times more unbearable than before. She had endured all kinds of pain without batting an eyelid. She had also experienced the feeling of the place where her profound heart jade was nurtured being scorched by raging flames. But, however, he was unable to endure the pain of being torn apart by the raging flames. No, that's not right. Yiqing Luo's pupils dilated as a strange feeling surged from the bottom of her heart. No, it wasn't burning her. It wasn't tearing her apart. Instead, it was an extremely intense sensation. It seemed to be summoning her to do something. That's right. It was a reaction. It was the feeling of being summoned. After falling into this strange place, her heart felt extremely uncomfortable. It was as if a mysterious force was summoning her and inviting her to join it. Realizing this point, Yiqing Luo obviously felt that tearing pain had gradually disappeared. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes and swept a few glances in the darkness. Immediately suppressing the restlessness in her heart, she followed the direction of the summoning and groped her way forward. She didn't know how long she had walked, but the surroundings looked like a long tunnel in the middle layer with no path in sight. Chapter 864. Gradually, Yiqing Luo seemed to see a patch of light in front. She had also sensed that the voice calling out to her in her heart had grown even stronger. There must be something on the other side that was summoning her. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she endured the burning sensation from her heart and headed straight towards the source of the light. Gradually, the light in front of him expanded. The thick scent of the incense burner lingered in the air. What came into view was a huge tomb. He was right. It was a tomb. It was a round stone wall with a black, transparent coffin lying quietly in the middle of the tomb. 4 black wooden tables were placed around the coffin. On top of the table, there were 4 huge incense burners with several huge incense sticks stuck into them. Yiqing Luo recognized this fragrance. Once lit, the incense would not be extinguished even after 10,000 years. This kind of incense could only be used after the passing of the sect masters of the 4 major sections. It could be said that it was a fragrance exclusive to the 4 great sections. The rising smoke obscured the coffin. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked at the top of the stone wall where a huge human totem was carved. The outline was extremely familiar. Wasn't it the Ling King totem on the stone wall leading to the bottom of the tomb? The only difference was, this was an enlarged version of the Ling King totem. Next to the totem were the 4 large words, Tomb of the Ling King, carved in flamboyant calligraphy. This was the main tomb of the Ling King? Yiqing Luo looked around in astonishment. She had not expected that under a freak combination of factors, she had fallen into the Ling King's main tomb. Was the profound heart jade guiding her to the main tomb of the Ling King? No, that's not it. The burning sensation in his heart did not subside. There seemed to be a voice calling her forward, calling her to get closer to the coffin of King Ling. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped violently. She slowly walked towards the coffin. Just as he was about to reach over the black wooden table and place his hand on the coffin, he suddenly caught sight of something. The lid of the coffin did not overlap with the coffin. It was slightly slanted, revealing a small part of the hole. Someone touched the coffin of King Ling? Could it be, other than Shangguan Liuli, there was another hidden force? That's right. If it was just Shangguan Liuli, even if she cooperated with the dark forces, she would still be devoured by the mysterious Yin Qi. It was also impossible for Shangguan Liuli to remove the traps and formations in the tomb of the Ling King. The one who entered the tomb before them was definitely not Shangguan Liuli. Who were the people from that faction? Intuition told Yiqing Luo that the truth was in the coffin lid. As this thought flashed through her mind, Yiqing Luo slammed her palm on the coffin lid and activated her profound qi. The lid of the coffin flipped over and landed on the ground, leaning against the side of the coffin. King Ling's body was not in the coffin. Not even a shadow of King Ling could be seen. There was only a black hole, a bottomless black hole. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Wasn't this the main tomb of the Ling King? When Yiqing Luo's vision was fixated on the black hole, her heart suddenly surged with a scorching arc. It was as if a flame had suddenly been ignited, wrapping around her heart. Something was calling to her. In the black hole, she could clearly feel that something was calling out to her. No matter what, she had to figure out what this thing that was continuously summoning her and inciting her profound jade heart to continuously react was. Chapter 865. After leaping down the black hole, Yiqing Luo felt a strong suction force sucking her in firmly. Immediately after that, she felt her body being flung by someone and both her feet landed on the ground as she staggered several steps forward. It was until both her hands touched the scorching rock wall before she managed to stabilize herself. It was yet another long tunnel in the cave. There weren't any disgusting slippery vines on the rock wall, nor was there any moss, only an extremely scorching and uneven rock wall. There was another tunnel below the coffin. Could it be? This was the real Ling King's main tomb? Setting up heavy defenses was really just to prevent tomb robbers or other malicious cultivators from disturbing Ling King's rest. Or there was another deeper meaning? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as her palm was placed over her heart, deeply feeling her heart beating intensely in ecstasy. Dmo Xian's profound jade heart was also giving off a vibration, as though it was crying out something. The feeling of being summoned grew stronger. As though it was right in front, close at hand. Yiqing Luo held onto the rock wall as she walked forward. The surroundings were pitch black without a single bit of light. Yiqing Luo could only follow the contours of the rock wall, carefully preventing herself from making any sound. After walking for about half an instant's time, Yiqing Luo suddenly stopped in her tracks. Faintly, she heard someone's voice coming from the front. There was someone. Indeed there was someone. Was it that group of people who had entered Ling King's tomb before them? Yiqing Luo's footsteps became even lighter as the light from the luminous pearl shone faintly in front. Speed up. If that girl is summoned over, all the hard work we have done will be wasted. This voice seemed to be urging something urgently. The person who replied had an aged voice and spoke very quickly. As they were too far apart, Yiqing Luo couldn't hear it clearly. But what made Yiqing Luo stunned was that urgent voice seemed to have heard it somewhere before. It was extremely familiar. Could it be? Or was it someone she knew? Yiqing Luo tiptoed as she quietly got closer. Yiqing Luo could hear their conversation even more clearly. Who knows why that girl would come to Ling King's tomb today? Stop talking nonsense and quickly set up the array. A series of rustling sounds could be heard, as if they were arranging the so-called formation. Soon after, an old voice sighed softly, perhaps this is fate. It didn't come early or late. I'm afraid it was summoned. Another anxious voice sounded with a hint of anger, what do you mean by destined or not? I don't believe in such things. I only know that the ones standing here right now are us. This is heaven's will. The old man didn't say anything else and began to move in silence. Perhaps it was because their attention was placed on what they wanted to do that they didn't notice that Yiqing Luo was gradually nearing them. Yiqing Luo held her breath and condensed her qi, retracted all the imposing manner on her body, and quietly hid in the dark. The luminous night pearl shone on everything here. This was a cave that was not much different from the main tomb of the Ling King. Within the gloomy and cold cave, a cold wind blew gently, and it brought along a wisp of terror that pierced the heart. Indistinctly, there was a sharp whistling sound of the wind, like the wailing of evil spirits from hell, but it was more like the attack of evil spirits, bringing with it a sense of danger and fear. On the ice-cold stone walls, there were engravings that seemed to be from ancient times. No. Looking carefully, those weren't the so-called historical remains. Instead, they were totems with strange shapes. They covered the entire stone walls of the cave. Chapter 866. Those totems were either pouncing, sitting or lying down. One claw stretched out, stepping into the void, and when it raised its head to howl, it seemed as though it was stepping on thousands of beasts, domineering and disdainful. The light between the 5 claws was like a sharp blade piercing through the sky. The sharp ray was like cold steel, almost piercing one's eyes. In the dim light of the cave, it gave off an extremely ferocious yet noble and proud feeling. Savagery and nobility were perfectly unified on these beast-type totems. But what attracted Yiqing Luo's attention the most was the huge stone sculpture in the middle of the cave's stone wall. It was also around this stone sculpture. It wasn't those tiger or leopard totem, but an extremely complicated pattern. Rather than saying it was pattern, it was more like the equinox flower. Flowers without leaves, no flowers without leaves. Moreover, these equinox flower patterns were like the Ling King totem on the bottom of the tombstone wall, as bright as blood. It was so red that it made one feel as though the ghost bell from hell was ringing, seizing one's soul. In the middle of the flower there was a lifelike huge beast. The huge beast opened its bloody mouth, looking extremely sinister and terrifying. Its scarlet tongue stuck out as though it was something that could seduce one's soul, extremely terrifying. Under that huge beast stood two figures. One stood under the huge beast, holding a luminous pearl in his hand. His figure was tall and he was dressed in a black robe, revealing the bulging muscles on his body. A black-robed old man with a head of white hair stood in front of the huge beast's bloody mouth, gazing deeply at that huge mouth. There was a kind of déjà vu of the stone sculpture huge beast opening its mouth, swallowing that old man into its stomach. "Elder and I, hurry up. If we delay, Lord, both of us will not have a good ending." That black-robed man who was holding the luminous pearl couldn't help but opened his mouth to urge. This voice made Yiqing Luo quivered. Lord. It was this so-called Lord again. Who on earth was Lord? This man. His voice was deep, at least 30 to 40 years old. The tone of calling Lord. Wasn't this the protector she heard when she first entered the library pavilion's second story, the one who was addressed as Lord Protector? This protector. Who on earth was he? What was the collaboration between him and the director? After recognizing this middle-aged man, Yiqing Luo became even more cautious. She remembered that this protector had once discussed with the headmaster to keep a close eye on her. This meant that the guardian's target, no, to be more precise, the Lord's target, was very likely to be her. At this time, if the protector saw her in this kind of situation where she couldn't freely use her profound jade heart, wouldn't that be walking right into a trap? Most importantly, there was a high possibility that these two people were the ones who entered the Ling King's tomb before the World Group and the Azura God Group to clear the mechanisms and arrays along the way. Just the two of them had successfully reached the bottom of the tomb. They also avoided the 5 corpses protection and the awakening of the Corpse King, which showed how powerful these two people were. It was better to observe the situation and figure out what the two of them were up to. From afar, Yiqing Luo saw that black-robed elderly raising both his hands up high, as his palms were holding onto a piece of sparkling lustrous object. As the distance was too far, Yiqing Luo couldn't see clearly. He only felt that the light of that thing was extremely holy. It made her heart, which kept on boiling and burning, seem to have a kind of tranquil heart. Following that, the elderly man's fingers formed a hand gesture on the item in his palms, as though he was doing something. Finally, both hands respectfully placed the item in his palms onto the huge beast's extended tongue. That thing. Yiqing Luo saw it clearly this time round. It was a piece of jade-like object which was sparkling with a holy luster. Chapter 867. He was right. It was a piece of profound heart jade. Whose profound heart jade were they holding and what were they doing here? Yiqing Luo's slender brows narrowed as she stared at that side for a long time. All of a sudden, he realized that the huge beast totem was extremely similar to the tiger and leopard totem carved on the surrounding stone walls. Moreover, Yiqing Luo felt that he looked very familiar. But for a moment she couldn't remember where she had seen this totem. Yiqing Luo didn't continue to think in detail. Because, when the old man placed the profound heart jade on the tip of the huge beast's tongue, his fingers loosened. Yiqing Luo could obviously feel a surge of agitated feeling in her chest, as it struck heavily against her heart in an instant. The place where the profound jade heart was being nurtured also became more and more restless. It seemed like that piece of profound heart jade was currently summoning Yiqing Luo. It wanted to return to Yiqing Luo's body and merge into one with her. Lass, you should have sensed it. Yiqing Luo had yet to ponder deeply when Old Man Song's voice suddenly appeared in her mind. Hearing Old Man Song's voice, Yiqing Luo's suspended heart immediately relaxed. That profound heart jade is, that's right. Old Man Song answered without the slightest hesitation, his tone revealing a bit of solemnity. That profound heart jade is precisely your profound heart jade. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Her profound jade heart? Profound heart jade that was snatched away by some unknown black-clothed man? All along, Yiqing Luo had always thought about how to strengthen herself, find the whereabouts of her profound heart jade, and take back the profound heart jade that belonged to her. In this way she wouldn't need to rely on Dmo Xian's sun profound jade heart to pass her days. There was no need to keep track of time. She also didn't need to worry about what would happen to her after she lost her profound heart jade if Dmo Xian wasn't by her side. She didn't need to worry about whether Dmo Xian would be alright after she had formed the profound heart jade for her. There was no need to. However, she had never thought that she would find her profound heart jade so suddenly. No wonder, from the moment she stepped into the tomb of the Ling King, she could clearly feel a burning sensation that was difficult to ignore, burning at the place where her profound jade heart was being nurtured. And after that, the thing that continuously called out to her and led her here, was also her profound jade heart. Her profound heart jade urgently wanted to return to her body. The mysterious lord, a Dharma protector who had some sort of deal with the headmaster. There was also this extremely mysterious old man. Why did these people want to spend so much effort to snatch away her profound heart jade? Moreover, he had brought her profound heart jade to this place. It seemed like he wanted to use her profound heart jade to do something for the so-called master? Quick! That good-for-nothing from the Shangguan family won't amount to anything. If our trump card doesn't play a key role, that girl will definitely be summoned here. After a moment of silence, the protector anxiously urged again. As he spoke, he spread his arms impatiently and paced back and forth. Our plan can't tolerate even the slightest mistake. If that girl is really summoned, we won't be able to protect the profound heart jade. The moment the protector turned around, Yiqing Luo clearly saw. His eyes, which were filled with anxiety, faintly flashed a wisp of black chi. That was mystic, shady. People from the dark forces. They were from the Dark Coalition. Yiqing Luo's pupils instantly widened as the expression on her face turned into one of astonishment. Her profound heart jade was actually taken away by the dark forces? The so-called master was from the dark forces. In that case, the headmaster had collaborated with the people from the dark forces? The other party was from the dark forces and her surroundings had always been surrounded by the dark forces' energy, so that made sense. Chapter 868. The dark forces' target, other than the profound jade heart, were there other things? Otherwise, why would the dark forces send out such a large number of people, to continuously sign the soul contract with the people around her? One must know that to lend profound yin qi to a cultivator, causing the cultivator to become stronger in a short period of time, this kind of forbidden technique would deplete the profound jade heart's energy. The more people who signed it, the more profound energy would be depleted. By then, it would easily cause the profound jade heart to dry up. To restore it, it would require a lot of time and effort. However, the dark forces kept using the profound yin qi, trying to take the opportunity to devour her, devour the people around her. Their motive must be related to her. While Yiqing Luo was deep in thought, the old man had already finished setting up the formation, clasped his palms together and started to release his own profound qi. The old man's hand gestures were extremely fast. Yiqing Luo had yet to see clearly, and had already changed to the next set of actions. He's using the forbidden technique. Old man Song opened his mouth solemnly. He's trying to open the seal. Seal? Could it be? What was sealed behind this huge beast totem? Last, the thing inside absolutely cannot let them take it away. Old man Song's voice suddenly rose, his tone was slightly anxious. His voice paused as if he realized that his tone was not right. He immediately slowed down his tone. I can sense that the thing inside will be of great help to you. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes suspiciously. Based on her understanding of Old Man Song's agitation, was absolutely not only because he sensed how powerful the thing inside was. Perhaps he was hiding something. Old Man Song was unwilling to say, so Yiqing Luo naturally wouldn't force him to ask. Anyway, she was sure that Old Man Song would absolutely not harm her. The two of them, their abilities are unfathomable. Alone, can I really snatch it from them? To be able to be sealed in the Ling King's tomb, it must be a rare treasure. Now Yiqing Luo had an even bolder guess. The so-called Ling King's tomb was actually not the Ling King. It was merely a pretense of Ling King. In actual fact, it was to seal the thing behind this huge beast totem. Which was what Old Man Song said, the thing that would be of great help to her. Girl, if you obtain what's inside, wanting to take back the profound heart jade that belongs to you is also very easy. Old Man Song didn't directly answer. It seemed that Old Man Song attached great importance to the sealed item. She had already come all the way here and understood that there was an even more powerful seal behind the giant beast totem. Naturally, he wouldn't give up without trying. At this time, the old man had already finished casting the forbidden technique. With a loud rumble, the giant beast totem with its bloody mouth suddenly retracted its scarlet tongue and closed its mouth. It was as if he had swallowed the profound heart jade into his stomach. Then a crack slowly appeared in the middle of the giant beast statue. An entrance that could accommodate two people was opened. The old man's body went limp and his face was drenched in sweat. He looked like he had overexerted his profound energy. The protector easily grabbed the old man's arm and directly dragged him into the cracked entrance. He was so anxious that he didn't even check to see if there was anyone else around. Of course, they were especially confident towards their own perceptive ability. They absolutely believed that no one would be able to enter the Ling King's main tomb and discover this sealed land. After the two of them entered, Yiqing Luo followed closely behind. Their footsteps were extremely fast, and by the time Yiqing Luo reached the entrance, the two of them had already disappeared. Yiqing Luo's gaze shifted to the cracked huge beast statue which only had half a head left, as she stretched out her hand to sense her profound heart jade. Chapter 869. Slender fingers with distinct joints gently held Yiqing Luo's hand which was stretched towards the stone sculpture giant beast. Yiqing Luo reflexively raised her elbow and attacked the person behind her. She had just turned her head and a comforting sandalwood scent instantly seeped into her nostrils. It made her entire being relaxed. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and met with a pair of sparkling peach blossom eyes. That resplendent obsidian-clear eyes sparkled with jade luster. Just one look and it made one's heart ripple, sinking into this pair of eyes. The owner of this pair of soul-absorbing peach blossom eyes, that face, was peerless and peerless. Handsome like a deity, black hair and purple robe, fluttering without wind. "Ah Xian, why are you here?" Yiqing Luo's voice had just ended when her waist suddenly tightened. She had already been forcefully embraced by the man's broad palm. The man's sandalwood scent was getting thicker and thicker, filling the tip of her nose. His arms were getting tighter and tighter. So tight that Yiqing Luo's waist was a little painful. "Ah Xian." She stretched out her hand trying to push Dmo Xian away, protesting that he was hugging too tightly. But the little hand had just landed on his body. Yiqing Luo obviously felt. The man's tall body was trembling slightly. His head, which was pillowed beside his ear, gave out a heavy panting sound. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped as her pupils abruptly contracted. Slowly the expression on her face became soft. Yiqing Luo opened her arms, wrapped around Dmo Xian's waist. "Ah Xian, I'm fine. And I'm here, you'll be fine." Dmo Xian's voice was low, hoarse and gloomy, because of nervousness and worry, slightly dry. His head rubbed against her neck, his warm breath brushed against her skin. Yiqing Luo's skin broke out as she shrank in Dmo Xian's arms. "Lil Luo, in future you're not allowed to disappear in front of me for no reason." Dmo Xian tightened his arms because of the deep voice. His tone was extremely domineering. This time she really didn't disappear intentionally. Who knew that the mechanism to the main tomb entrance was set on the rock wall? That is not the mechanism for the main tomb's entrance. Dmo Xian's emotions had already stabilized. He seemed to have seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts as his eyes dimmed slightly. He slowly straightened his body and placed an arm across her waist. "It's a little complicated here. Let's go in first. The things inside belong to you." Was it something inside again? What exactly was sealed in there? To be able to make the dark forces go through so much trouble, to the point of even using a forbidden technique and risking their lives to give Shangguan Liuli such dense mysterious yin qi, just to stop them, to delay them. Moreover, if it was really as she had guessed. If the previous four great sect masters were only using the name of the Ling King to build the Ling King's tomb just to seal this thing, from this, it could be seen that the thing sealed inside definitely possessed some sort of powerful energy. The people from the dark forces. Not only did he snatch away her profound heart jade, he even injured the people around her several times. He even manipulated Long Yunzhan and played with the relationship between the two of them. How could she let the people from the underworld get their hands on this? Old Man Song also said that the thing sealed inside would be of great help to her. Take it out when your profound heart jade is out. The minute you take it out, the entrance will be sealed again. Dmo Xian saw Yiqing Luo's eyes were covered with a raging battle intent, as he caressed her head and said in a warm voice. Yiqing Luo nodded heavily. Chapter 870. Dmo Xian gazed at her gradually blending into the white light and lowered his eyelids slightly. The flowing light in his eyes seemed to hide some deep meaning. Far away in the imperial palace, he sensed that the seal of the Ling King's tomb had been opened. And coincidentally, the profound jade heart that he had condensed within Yiqing Luo's body also produced a strange movement. At that time, he realized that it was fated that Yiqing Luo had also gone to King Ling's tomb. Dmo Xian had specially checked on Yiqing Luo's identity. Although it wasn't obvious, but Dmo Xian roughly knew that this King Ling's tomb would definitely summon Yiqing Luo who had stepped into the tomb. Under the situation where the seal was activated by someone other than Yiqing Luo, if Yiqing Luo answered the summons and went to the sealed grounds, she would definitely be injured. When he sensed the restlessness of his profound jade heart, he rushed to King Ling's tomb in a hurry. The shattering of Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart had already given him a shock. After that, Yiqing Luo suddenly activated the mechanism and disappeared from the bottom of the tomb. On the other side of the wall where she disappeared, there were no traces of any mechanism. This made Dmo Xian completely flustered. Because no one knew better than him exactly what was sealed within the Ling King's tomb. Based on Yiqing Luo's current ability, it was impossible to open the seal, nor was she able to control the sealed object. Ling King's tomb was summoning Yiqing Luo down, and if she was not careful, Yiqing Luo would die in the sealed grounds. Luckily his little Luoer was smart enough not to alert the enemy. She was smart enough to stand in the dark and not be tempted by the sealed land to advance rashly. No one knew how anxious and terrified he was when he saw Yiqing Luo disappeared. That was the panic of losing Lil Luo. He was so terrified that his entire body was trembling, and all the blood in his body froze. In his memory, Dmo Xian had never tasted such a feeling. But today, on Yiqing Luo's body, it allowed him to thoroughly experience this feeling. In his ears, he vaguely recalled a very, very long time ago, a person he had almost forgotten as he roared with all his might, "Dmo Xian! You are a cold-blooded monster. You don't have a heart, you don't know what emotions are." No heart, huh? Dmo Xian lowered his head as his slender fingers gently covered his chest. "Ah Xian, why are you still outside?" The girl's clear and sweet voice came from the sealed area. As the white light lingered, the girl's stunning face appeared. That pair of watery and translucent eyes reflected his figure. Dmo Xian responded softly and started walking towards her. He reached out and pulled her into his embrace. The young girl's arms wrapped tightly around his waist. Her soft and tender body warmed his body and mind. Bang, bang, Dmo Xian could clearly hear the sound coming from his chest. His palms, which were still on his chest, pounded against him wave after wave. Dmo Xian couldn't help but laugh, his rosy lips lightly curled into a faint arc. This girl was his heart. After the two of them stepped into the sealed area, they were surrounded by an illusory space. He was right. It was space. They were no longer surrounded by rock walls or tunnels. But it was a vast expanse of whiteness, nothing could be seen clearly. The sealed area is formed from 3,000 spaces, but the real sealed space is only one. Dmo Xian read the astonishment and puzzlement in Yiqing Luo's eyes as he opened his mouth to explain. Yiqing Luo blinked. The meaning was... Chapter 871. No wonder when they stepped into the sealed grounds, they didn't see that protector and black-robed old man. Which space did the both of them go to? Follow me properly, there are many distorted spaces in the 3,000 spaces, and if you're swept into other spaces, your life might be in danger. Dmo Xian held Yiqing Luo's slender waist tightly as he casually walked forward. Yiqing Luo raised her head suspiciously as she looked at the man with a serious expression. Was it really that scary and he was still so casual? Could it be that he had come up with such a rotten idea to take advantage of her in broad daylight? If I want to do anything to you, do I need to think of an excuse? Dmo Xian's slender fingers clasped Yiqing Luo's lower jaw as he lowered his head and covered her lips. A gentle aura enveloped her nostrils. Was he a roundworm in her heart? Why was it that Dmo Xian could guess everything she was thinking about? Yiqing Luo's face flushed red from the kiss as she hammered his chest with both hands. Can you pay attention to the occasion? Didn't you say there are distorted spaces? Leaving her swollen pink lips, Dmo Xian was like a cat who had successfully stolen a fish as he licked his lips contentedly, as though he wasn't satisfied yet. Then let's continue after we leave the sealed grounds. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red as she spat lightly. I can't be bothered to play with you. The dark forces have already entered the space for a long time, and if they find the correct sealed space first, that sealed item will be taken away by the dark forces. Dmo Xian stopped there and didn't continue to tease Yiqing Luo. The current situation was indeed not suitable for flirting. Dmo Xian seemed to be extremely familiar with the 3,000 spaces as he held Yiqing Luo's little hand as they shuttled through the 3,000 spaces. Along the way they were unobstructed. They didn't meet any distorted space. Only the deeper they went, the more Yiqing Luo could clearly feel that there was an extremely oppressive feeling which made her unable to breathe. She wanted to open her mouth to ask Dmo Xian. But she saw Dmo Xian's calm expression, but his eyes were extremely grave as he looked ahead as his handsome brows creased slightly. Apparently, after crossing countless spaces and entering deeper into the space, he was starting to find it strenuous. All her words were deflated. Yiqing Luo forcefully suppressed this extremely uncomfortable feeling as she quickened her pace. Although Yiqing Luo couldn't sense the existence of the 3,000 worlds, but she could clearly sense the strange power lingering around her. That force seemed to be attracting her, as if it was summoning her. Another summoning? Previously, she had been summoned by his profound jade heart. But now, what was summoning him? This thought had just flashed in her mind when Yiqing Luo's footsteps suddenly halted. His eyes suddenly fixed on a certain place. And Mo Xian, who was leading the way calmly in front, also stopped his footsteps because of Yiqing Luo. "Ah Xian, there's something here." Yiqing Luo's slender fingers pointed towards a direction where the white mist was curling upwards. Just as she finished her words, the surrounding white fog, like a tornado, rapidly gathered in front of Yiqing Luo. Immediately after, under the white fog, it seemed as though a huge hole had been torn open, as it opened its bloody mouth, trying to swallow Yiqing Luo in one mouthful. "Little Luo, be careful." Mo Xian's long arm moved and Yiqing Luo staggered a few steps backwards. Following that, she saw a purple-robed figure, like a celestial being, or like a lightning, heading straight towards that hole which had been torn open. The purple robe fluttered as the golden edges of the sleeves rolled, looking extremely magnificent. Mo Xian raised a palm wind as he fiercely chopped towards that hole, only to see that hole which had been opened up instantly closed up. Chapter 872. White mist curled upwards as the surroundings turned into a vast expanse of whiteness. A black hole opened up behind Yiqing Luo's back, as though it was a space that swallowed all living things. Gradually, the gap widened as though it could swallow Yiqing Luo entirely. "Lil Luo, Mo Xian's expression turned gloomy and deep. His obsidian-like eyes were as black as a lake. This space. It actually had its own consciousness attempting to swallow Yiqing Luo. Right. It wasn't that they were searching for the right sealed space. But this space, right from the start, its target was Yiqing Luo. Mo Xian's narrow peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly. He knew that Yiqing Luo would be the opportunity to find the sealed space. But he had not expected that the sealed space would have its own consciousness. Taking the initiative to find Yiqing Luo, was it to avoid him? Yiqing Luo apparently sensed the danger behind her. Without the slightest hesitation, he used his footwork. The moment that gap was torn open, her figure had already disappeared. In a blink of an eye, she appeared next to Mo Xian. She grabbed Mo Xian's sleeve as her slender brows knitted tightly. "Ah Xian, what's going on?" "This is the sealed land that had been covered in dust for 1,000 years. Mo Xian's voice was calm, but the expression on his face revealed a grave expression. 1,000 years of seal, only you?" His voice paused, as though he realized that he had said something he shouldn't. The color in his eyes retracted slightly as he continued in a calm tone. "Only a special profound heart jade like yours can unlock it." Yiqing Luo was stunned. Her slender fingers covered her heart. "My profound heart jade?" She naturally understood the uniqueness of her profound heart jade. She had not expected. Other than raising her own cultivation speed, her profound heart jade could also unlock 1,000 years of seal? Did the people from the dark forces snatch her profound heart jade in order to undo this seal? But after the seal was unlocked, why did the 3,000 spaces in the sealed land become like this? The sealed land was unlocked by your profound heart jade. The dark forces must have done something, causing the energy released by the sealed land to sense that they weren't the owner of the profound heart jade, so there was a strange reaction. This led to the 3,000 spaces in the sealed land to search for the true owner of the profound heart jade, which is you. This was the space's own consciousness. The reason why he took the initiative to look for Yiqing Luo. However, the only problem now was, if Yiqing Luo was swallowed by the space and entered the sealed space, he would be sealed outside the sealed space, unable to enter the true sealed area. If Yiqing Luo were to face the dark forces alone. Yiqing Luo, whose profound heart jade had yet to return back to her body, would definitely become a tool used by the dark forces. Yiqing Luo also realized this problem. With her current strength, it was impossible for her to be a match for the two people from the dark organization. She clenched her fists and secretly vowed in her heart that after this matter was over, she would definitely take back her profound heart jade and fight to regain her dominance. Suddenly, her eyes flashed as her charming eyes swept past something, and the hand which was holding onto Mo Xian's sleeve suddenly gripped his arm tightly as she dodged to the side. Chain reaction, the other spaces are also affected. Bang! The place where the two of them were standing just now was struck by an electric current out of thin air, making a crackling sound. But in the blink of an eye, the electric current seemed to have melted into the air. The surroundings returned to the vast expanse of whiteness. Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian exchanged glances as their expressions sunk slightly. Chapter 873. Could it be that the 3,000 spaces were trying to separate the two of them? Hold on tight. Dmo Xian's voice was steady, as though he wasn't affected by the collision of the 3,000 spaces. He faced the direction that Yiqing Luo pointed at and raised his palm. A gush of vast profound qi burst out from his body. His jet-black hair flew in the air, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. His purple robe was fluttering in the wind because of the surrounding space. The profound qi lingered in his palm and the wanton qi swirled around his body, bringing with it a shocking momentum. His face was calm, the luster of the profound qi set off his peerless face. That was a kind of silence before a storm. It was so silent that it made one's heart flustered, but one did not know how to suppress this maddening feeling of panic. The strong wave also brushed past Yiqing Luo's cheek. She held Dmo Xian's arm and slowly wrapped it around his sturdy waist. From his back, her hands tightly hugged his waist, barely able to stand firm. The entire sealed area trembled. Pa! A piercing sound cut through the air and exploded in her ears. Dmo Xian's long arm hooked and hugged Yiqing Luo's slender waist as he leaped up. The two of them suddenly bounced and turned into a streak of light. Facing the palm wind that he struck out, they rushed forward. Yiqing Luo was wrapped in Dmo Xian's arms, leaving no gap. She heard the sound of the raging storm. Yiqing Luo wanted to open her eyes, but her head was pressed down by the man's big palm. Vaguely, Yiqing Luo only had time to catch a glimpse of a gap. The sealed area had already transformed into a pitch-black sky, with not the slightest bit of other colors visible. A huge white disk in this dark space was extremely conspicuous. Sharp fangs, shiny white fur, it raised its head and howled. Yiqing Luo couldn't hear the howl, but she had an extremely strong feeling. That huge creature seemed to be shouting something. But Yiqing Luo only caught a glimpse of it and was covered by Dmo Xian's arm. Her delicate body was hugged even tighter. The strength in his waist made him feel pain. Although it was just a glance, but Yiqing Luo was almost certain. That was a beast. A beast that looked like a tiger or a leopard. In other words, they were the beasts on the totems that covered the outer perimeter of the sealed land. Why did he find it so familiar? He felt as if he had seen this beast somewhere before. We're here. Just as Yiqing Luo was filled with doubts, she heard Dmo Xian's soft whisper. She felt that her feet were firmly planted on the ground. The arms around his waist also loosened a little. Yiqing Luo stuck her head out and surveyed the surroundings. The surroundings were no longer a vast expanse of white or pitch black. There was no so-called 3,000 space and there was no familiar-looking beast. This was just a sealed palace hall. It was indeed worthy of being called a palace. The spacious palace hall was extremely bright. The surrounding pillars were all sparkling and translucent, as if they were inlaid with luminous pearls. They emitted a lustrous luster that illuminated the entire hall. The hall was so spacious that other than the pillars there was nothing else. Therefore Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo didn't enter the main hall. Instead, they stood at a corner outside the hall, and just happened to be able to have a panoramic view of everything in the hall. The guardian and the black-robed old man stood in the middle of the hall, arguing about something. The old man's right arm had been slashed open, and blood was gushing out violently. His old face was filled with a helpless expression, but he couldn't resist the guardian's urgent urging, so he stretched out his hand again and wiped a handful of blood from his arm. His bloody hand quickly began to form a hand seal. Chapter 874. In a split second, the entire main hall started to shake, as though the entire space was about to collapse. A scarlet strong airflow started to surge in the main hall. As though a large amount of fresh blood was splashed out, it looked extremely horrifying, making one's heart palpitate. Even Yiqing Luo had a numbing feeling on her scalp. The entire wall was emitting a bewitching red glow. It blended together with the blood print which had been struck on the wall. Are we going to fail again? Guardian Ying's tone was unable to conceal the anxiety. His palms were crossed as he kept hitting his palms with the back of his hand, pacing back and forth as his face was filled with impatience. How could we fail? Don't tell me there's something wrong with your operation? His words had just ended when the old man's last blood print which had been struck on the wall was rebounded by that scarlet airflow. A bam sound was heard and the old man was sent flying by the blood print as he retreated backwards, crashing onto a pillar. With a wah, he spat out a large amount of blood. The old man's face was pale, apparently having lost too much blood as his breathing became heavier and heavier. He leaned against the pillar as he sat on the ground, his palm which was filled with blood covered his chest as he berated in an extremely displeased tone, "Guardian Ing, I'm the most favored elder by his lord's side. If you don't believe me you can leave now. Don't think too highly of yourself." How much profound Jade Heart's energy was needed to execute the forbidden art was something that Guardian Ing totally didn't understand. He had used his own blood time and time again to form the blood print, but the pain of the backlash was something that Guardian Ing wouldn't understand. It was a typical case of speaking without thinking. The two of them had different responsibilities but their statuses were similar, so no one was lower than the other. Guardian Ing saw the old man getting angry and hurriedly took out a blood-replenishing medicinal pill from his chest as he respectfully passed it over. "Elder Xiong, his lord is waiting for us to report back and that girl has also entered King Ling's tomb, so I'm just anxious." The old man's expression was still black as he directly took the medicinal pill and poured it into his mouth. He simply bandaged the wound on his arm before he slowly stood up. If a divine artifact could be obtained so easily, it wouldn't have been sealed here for 1,000 years. Elder Xiong sneered as he narrowed his sinister eyes. Yes. It's a divine tool after all. I've troubled Elder Xiong. Protector Ing knew that it was impossible for him to undo the seal with his own abilities. As a protector, his duty was to protect the people he was supposed to protect. As for the elders, they were the ones who listened to the master behind the scenes, casting spells or controlling certain things. Since they had different responsibilities, Protector Ing did not dare to show any signs of impatience. "After we retrieve the divine weapon, I will definitely praise you in front of the Lord for your spirit of risking everything for the Lord." Elder Xiong's expression softened a little. "I'm not a person who likes to make meritorious contributions. The fact that the Lord has entrusted such an important task to us means that he trusts us. As long as we cooperate with each other and do our job well for the Lord, it will be fine." Even so, the expression on his face clearly became a little more complacent. Both of them had their own thoughts, so they didn't say anything. Their conversation also entered Yiqing Luo's ears. Divine weapon? What was sealed here was actually a divine weapon. Furthermore, if it was sealed for 1,000 years, it would at least be a divine weapon from 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, the four great sects had painstakingly sealed it here, so it could be seen that this divine weapon was definitely not an ordinary item. Interested? Diamo Xian's arm was still wrapped around her waist as his lips stuck close to her ear. The minute he opened his mouth, his warm breath was like a feather, tickling her ear. Yiqing Luo's petite body trembled slightly as the glint in her eyes turned into embarrassment. Chapter 875. I've already said that the thing inside belongs to no one but you. Diamo Xian chuckled lightly, looking at the girl in his arms with satisfaction, unable to resist any bit of temptation. Yiqing Luo raised her elbow as she pushed him in a bad mood. The last seal is something that even they have no way of unlocking, so whether they can get it or not is still a problem. Why don't we go out now and kill the both of them before you undo the seal? Diamo Xian's long and narrow eyes rose slightly as his mood was delighted. Yiqing Luo recalled the scene of that Elder Xiong directly slicing open his wrist, using the forbidden blood arts to activate the seal. She shuddered and shook her head decisively. I'm more inclined to wait for them to break the seal, then go out and kill them. Her voice paused. Yiqing Luo's eyes flickered with a cold glint, like a mandala flower emitting a charming yet fatal charm. Dying when you're filled with hope is truly fatal. These people had snatched away her profound heart jade, and had repeatedly injured and harmed her. Just because the dark forces dared to make use of Long Yunzhan to stab Yan Xiaoyi, causing her to almost die from poison. She would also make the dark forces pay a painful price. You want to break the seal and seize the divine artifact? Alright then, I'll destroy their hope the moment they break the seal and when they see that they can complete the so-called Lord's mission and become wild with joy. Let them be annihilated with the despair of having their hopes destroyed in an instant. She had never been a good person. As long as someone touched her bottom line, she would not hesitate to take their life without batting an eyelid. A large palm slowly covered her eyes. Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned, her long lashes lightly swept past his palm. Lil Luo, I've said it before, don't show such an expression in front of me. Diamo Xian's gentle voice was like a cool breeze, brushing against her eardrums. In this way, I will feel very useless. The temperature of his palm became hotter and hotter. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as the cold smile on her face gradually softened. She leaned her head on Diamo Shen's shoulder and her voice was soft and sweet. I know, but… You know me? Yes, Diamo Shen understood her. It wasn't that she didn't believe in his abilities. It wasn't that she didn't believe that he could protect her and the people she cared about. What she wanted was to rely on her own strength to protect the people she cared about. Diamo Shen ruffled her hair. His long, slender fingers caressed her head with his slightly calloused fingertips. The rich masculine scent made Yiqing Luo's petite body tremble from time to time. She wanted to open her mouth to stop Diamo Shen's harassing and tormenting behavior, but she was too embarrassed to open her mouth. Perhaps Diamo Shen would use even more torturous methods to tease her. Out of the corner of his eyes, he saw that Elder Xiong, who had consumed a blood-replenishing pill and rested for a moment, had already stood up. Guardian Ying also stood up with a fawning smile on his face. However, when Elder Xiong walked towards the wall that was already covered in blood, red waves of qi surging out continuously, he pulled out a dagger and drew on his other arm without hesitation. After the blood gushed out, he casually wiped it off. It was as if he wasn't the one who was bleeding. After the old man muttered an incantation, he formed an incantation gesture and then slapped a blood seal onto the wall. Not long later, the white wall was filled with the blood seals which Elder Xiong had formed. Elder Xiong's complexion turned paler and paler, as his body started to sway. Chapter 876. Elder Xiong was so distraught that he was not in the mood to reprimand Guardian Ying. Both of them understood. If they could not retrieve the divine weapon, what awaited them would be the destruction of their souls. Even if they had to risk their lives, they had to bring the divine weapon back. However, the forbidden blood curse had been unleashed so many times, but it was still blocked by the final seal. His lord's plan had never gone wrong. Why couldn't he break the seal? Elder Xiong could not figure it out. The blood in his arms had exceeded their limit and could not continue to flow. Now, there's another way. Elder Xiong's eyes suddenly became resolute. He slowly straightened his body and clenched his fists. Guardian Ying looked at him with hope in his eyes. Death is better than having one's soul destroyed. Elder Xiong sucked in a deep breath, his aged face showing signs of dejection. Old Eagle, if possible, when you return, please apologize to that old woman of mine on my behalf. Guardian Ying's expression suddenly changed. He also understood the meaning behind Elder Xiong's words. Indeed, using his life in exchange for completing the task. In any case, he had saved his soul and his family. Otherwise, he would have left the Ling King's tomb empty-handed. Not only would he lose his life, but his soul would also be destroyed and his entire family would be buried with him. I will. The anxiety and uneasiness in Guardian Ying's eyes had already faded. He stretched out his hand and gently placed it on Elder Xiong's shoulder. Old Xiong, if you have anything to say, I will help you. Before he could finish speaking, Guardian Ying suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. Traces of blood seeped out of his mouth. He looked down and saw a withered hand easily piercing through his chest. A hand was holding his heart. You. Guardian Ying's eyes widened as he stared at Guardian Xiong in disbelief. The tenacity of these people who had been corroded by the mysterious Yin Qi was unimaginable. Even though his heart was held, he did not die immediately. Who told you that using the forbidden blood art requires the blood of the caster? Elder Xiong cackled. His aged face was filled with ruthlessness. Fool, how could this elder be willing to die? If I were to dig out my heart, how would I be able to use my profound heart jade and heart blood to perform the forbidden blood technique? You're so despicable. Protector Ying said with difficulty. He should be annoyed at himself for absorbing too much mysterious Yin Qi. As a result, he could clearly feel Elder Xiong's hand gripping tightly onto his beating heart, digging it out bit by bit. The pain was heart-wrenching. However, he was still conscious. No matter what you say, I'm doing this to complete the Lord's mission. Elder Xiong dug out the heart and slowly pushed Protector Ying's body away. Actually, you should thank me for sparing your soul and allowing you to reincarnate. Protector Ying no longer had the strength to speak. He could only lie quietly on the ground, letting the pain of his torn heart swallow him bit by bit. Then, in this kind of pain, waiting for death. Elder Xiong did not hesitate anymore. After using his mysterious qi to pick out Protector Ying's profound heart jade, he held the heart in his palm. He formed a seal with both hands and performed the forbidden blood technique. At the same time, he clasped the stone wall. The bewitching red energy was like a whirlwind, constantly blowing violently. A scarlet mist filled the entire main hall. Chapter 877. The last seal had been unlocked. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. She had not expected that the forbidden blood art, which exhausted her own blood, was merely an elementary forbidden art. As expected of the dark faction. Even when they used their forbidden arts, they were still so cruel. Yiqing Luo did not have the slightest bit of sympathy towards Guardian Eagle, who was still alive. It was just a dog biting dog. Now, what attracted Yiqing Luo's attention was whether there would be more dangerous things after the seal was unlocked. 10 over-pillars were constantly stacked together in the main hall. Guardian Eagle's body, which was still alive, under the constant collisions, more blood seeped out. He was hanging there but couldn't swallow it no matter what. Although Elder Xiong had lost a lot of blood, his strength was still there. He nimbly avoided those 10 over-pillars as he grinned sinisterly at the opening of the seal. After the 10 over-pillars were stacked together, the entire main hall shook and swayed incessantly. It seemed as though the surroundings had started to distort. After some time, the pillars stopped moving. The shaking of the space also gradually subsided. Between the 10 over-pillars and the blood print on the wall, gradually, the red light flickered and revealed a circle of red light. That red light formed an entrance which could accommodate one person, sticking closely to the wall which was covered with blood. Vaguely, a palm-sized outline could be seen in the red light. It was the entrance to the last seal being opened. Haha. Old Eagle, don't worry, I will send the divine relic to His Highness safely and tell His Highness that you have sacrificed your life for the divine relic. Elder Xiong grinned sinisterly as he took a step forward and headed towards that red light. Yiqing Luo was about to make a move. But her shoulder was pressed down by Diamo Xian's huge palm. Immediately, that purple robe had already leapt into the main hall. Like an exiled immortal, elegant like an immortal. Jumping straight to Elder Xiong's back, his palm flipped and casually slapped him towards the side of Guardian Eagle's body, which was still breathing. Immediately, his body was like lightning as he dashed towards the red light. The red light was like a blooming permetha flower, spreading a large amount of blood. Several bolts of red lightning struck, as though it was going to swallow Diamo Xian completely. That is... Elder Xiong fell heavily onto the ground and wanted to get up. A mouthful of blood gushed up his head as he fell weakly beside Guardian Eagle. His eyes widened as he looked in disbelief at the purple figure which was moving swiftly in the red lightning. Serves you right, you're still alive. Protector Ing laughed with great difficulty. He who had lost his heart, could feel his life force continuously disappearing. However, to be able to see Elder Xiong end up like this before he breathed his last, he felt extremely happy in his heart. What are you laughing at? I will bring the divine relic back. At least our souls will be preserved, and you will still have a chance to reincarnate. But now, our souls will all become food for the Lord. Elder Xiong gritted his teeth and glared at Enforcer Ing. His duty was to cast spells and incantations. He was not good at using profound chi or attacking. Otherwise, the Lord would not have sent Protector Ing to escort him all the way to the Ling King's tomb. If they were to fight head-on, Elder Xiong knew that he would definitely not be a match for that purple-robed man. So what if my soul is destroyed? Guardian Eagle's face was contorted from the pain, but he felt the pleasure of revenge. I am alone, it doesn't matter if I die. But you who failed the mission, your family? What kind of cruel persecution will they suffer? You. Elder Xiong's chest tightened as blood spurted out of his mouth. On the verge of death, you can still bicker so leisurely. People from the dark forces are really tenacious. Chapter 878. The two of them widened their eyes in astonishment. A slender figure entered their eyes. The young lady was dressed in a black outfit. Her ink-black hair cascaded down like a waterfall. The lady had a devastatingly beautiful face. Her skin was smooth like jade, sparkling and translucent. Especially that pair of long and bewitching eyes, were flowing with a glistening luster. This peerlessly beautiful face, the corners of her lips curled into a cruel and bloodthirsty cold smile. That piercingly cold aura caused one's heart to tremble with just a glance. She slowly stood in front of them, her back leaning against the red light. The red cherry blossom embroidered on her arm was like a flame, jumping in joy. Like a devil from hell. Her looks were peerlessly beautiful, but like a venomous devil. You. Guardian Ing was so shocked that his pierced heart shrank, as large amounts of fresh blood gushed out from his heart. As expected, you were summoned here, you. Elder Xiong pointed at Yiqing Luo in astonishment, finally seeing that girl who only appeared in the Lord's mouth. It was fated in the unseen world. Heaven's will indeed couldn't be defied. Yiqing Luo was expressionless as she looked at the both of them indifferently, using my profound jade heart to open the seal, and wishful thinking of obtaining the god relic? You know about it? Elder Xiong shuddered as his throat turned dry. Even if you know, it's useless. This god relic, based on your strength, you have no way to control it. Yiqing Luo scoffed as her lips curled into a cruel arc as it became thicker. Even if I can't control it, I won't let you get it. The two of them turned pale. They didn't even have the chance to move, not to mention resist. At this moment, Elder Xiong was extremely regretful. Why did he dig out Guardian Ying's heart? If Guardian Ying still had the strength to fight, they would definitely be fine. If we are unable to complete the mission, our souls will scatter and become the food of that lord, right? Yiqing Luo touched her chin as she asked in a relaxed tone. The two of them didn't reply. Yiqing Luo continued on her own. After we leave the Ling King's tomb, I will spread the news of the both of you helping me to open the seal, allowing me to obtain the god relic. I believe, even if you're dead, your lord will find you. You're so ruthless. His lordship was their only weakness. The one who was the most afraid was the lord. They could never imagine that such cold and heartless words would come from the mouth of such a devastatingly beautiful young girl. At this moment they finally understood. Why did his lord regard a 15-year-old girl as the only obstacle? Yiqing Luo slowly stood up, the smile on her face shot out a strong murderous intent. Ruthless? Not as good as you guys. As she spoke, her slender fingers trembled slightly. A red feather fan slid into his palm. Silver threads shot out of the feather fan and formed a simple cage around Enforcer Ying and Elder Xiong. Soon after, Yiqing Luo's fingertips caressed the profound phoenix ring and fished out a silver hairpin from the compartment. The silver hairpin swayed a few times at his fingertips, and he casually threw it to Protector Ying. The silver hairpin shook a few times. Protector Ying's face alternated between green and white, and his heart was filled with shock. But after a moment of silence, he didn't notice anything wrong with the silver hairpin. Just as he heaved a sigh of relief, he heard the young lady's sweet voice, but the tone was extremely icy cold. This is me avenging my brothers. You controlled Ajan, causing him to stab Xiao Yi and almost lost his life. Chapter 879. Not you? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes. Right. Not me. My mission is to follow Guardian Ying into the main tomb to open the seal and retrieve the god relic. It's really not me? Elder Xiong saw that he had a chance to convince Yiqing Luo and immediately revealed his background. Not Elder Xiong? The ones who had reached the Ling King's tomb first should be Guardian Ying and Elder Xiong. Shangguan Liuli absolutely didn't have the ability to inject profound yin qi. Could it be? Ling King's tomb had a fourth dark force's existence? Other than you, who else entered the Ling King's tomb? Who on earth is controlling Ajan? Yiqing Luo quickly walked to the side of the simple array formed by the silver threads as she stared sharply at him. Elder Xiong shuddered as he stammered, You let me go and I'll tell you, your group leader? You want to discuss terms with me? Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly as a chilly intent flashed past her eyes. Elder Xiong, don't forget that you have a family. Yes. Elder Xiong had a family and he valued his own family very much. Otherwise he wouldn't have taken away Guardian Ying's heart in order to survive. Elder Xiong understood the threat in Yiqing Luo's words. As long as she left the Ling King's tomb, outsiders would say that he was in cahoots with them. The Lord would absolutely not let his soul off, and even his wife and son would die without a burial ground. Your group leader's profound yin qi wasn't injected into his body, but... Elder Xiong weighed the pros and cons as he trembled and was about to say it out. Guardian Ying, who was by his side, suddenly cried out miserably, interrupting Elder Xiong's words. Glancing sideways, Elder Xiong's face instantly turned pale like a sheet of paper. On top of that silver hairpin, densely packed worms suddenly crawled out. In an instant, they crawled all over Guardian Ying's body. Especially after these worms smelt the blood gushing out from Guardian Ying's heart, they crazily drilled into the hole on Guardian Ying's chest. The densely packed worms devoured Guardian Ying. The crucial point was, Guardian Ying still had his own consciousness. He could clearly feel thousands of worms gushing into his body, constantly gnawing on his flesh. He opened his mouth wide and howled in pain. Elder Xiong felt his scalp prickling. He kept moving to the side, trying to escape from this place. But the simple array which Yiqing Luo had set up had intercepted Elder Xiong. Speak. Agence profound in chi, what's going on? Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she silently cursed those bugs for spoiling her plans. At this moment, Elder Xiong had no intention of speaking at all. When he saw Protector Ying being devoured by the huge wave of insects, he immediately went berserk. However, in the blink of an eye, those bugs attacked Elder Xiong again. In an instant, only a pile of clothes was left of the two living people. The thousands upon thousands of bugs were still moving non-stop. One by one, they filled the air and climbed up the spirit formation. She wasn't able to get any information out of Elder Xiong, but Yiqing Luo managed to get a piece of news. There were still people from the dark forces in the Ling King's tomb. That person was hiding in the dark and controlling Long Yunzhan. Right now there was still an unknown corpse king outside, a Long Yunzhan who made people feel helpless. She and Dmo Xian weren't outside and she didn't know if her brothers could handle it. She must get the god relic as soon as possible and return to her brother's side with Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo waved the feather fan in her hand and that silver hairpin which was being pressed down by the worms started to move. It shook slightly. Chapter 880. These bugs were the bugs which Yiqing Luo had brought out from Death God Castle. At that time he gave the silver hairpin to Baiming Liancheng. Who would have thought that Baiming Liancheng would actually tame these insects and turn them into his secret weapon? Before entering the tomb of the Ling King, Baiming Liancheng specially handed the silver hairpin to her and gave her a bottle of ointment that could control insects. It really came in handy. After thousands of bugs had crawled into the silver hairpin, Yiqing Luo hooked her feather fan. He put the silver hairpin back into his palm. Keeping the silver hairpin properly, Yiqing Luo's gaze looked towards the place where there were only 2 sets of clothes left and fell into deep thoughts. Elder Xiong's words couldn't possibly be false. The profound Yin energy on Long Yunzhan's body should have been tainted after entering the tomb of the Ling King. Before that, she hadn't sensed the slightest trace of profound Yin energy from Long Yunzhan's body. Moreover, Long Yunzhan's attitude was completely normal. In that case, when exactly did he get infected with the mysterious Yin Qi? Who was the 4th person from the dark organization hiding in the dark? No, that's not right. Elder Xiong seemed to have said something before he died. The profound Yin energy in Long Yunzhan's body wasn't injected. Instead, but what? Other than the dark forces' forbidden arts, what other methods were there to inject profound Yin energy into a profound practitioner's body? Was there a way to expel the mystical Yin Qi that had not been injected into the body? Countless questions, wave after wave, battered his mind. Suddenly, an urgent voice sounded in her mind, "Lass, now is not the time to think about other things. Your little lover is risking his life for you, and you still have the mood to think about him?" It was Old Song. Yiqing Luo immediately looked towards the direction of the sound. The purple-robed man was constantly moving through the lightning bolts. It was as if the slightest bit of carelessness would cause them to be completely devoured by those lightning bolts. After unlocking the last seal, the artifact will also sense an intruder's attack and activate its self-protection energy. Old Man Song explained, "It's precisely because your little lover knows this that she stopped you from going immediately." Protect energy? Self-protection of divine artifacts? Yiqing Luo looked around in astonishment at the lightning which kept chasing after Dmo Xian and her heart instantly tightened. She did not think too much about it, only thinking that based on Dmo Xian's power, anything would be a cinch. However, his opponent was a divine artifact. It was a divine artifact that had been sealed since 1,000 years ago. It was a divine artifact that made the dark forces restless. How could a mortal match his strength? Dmo Xian continued to release his biting cold profound qi. His imposing manner was like a rainbow. The powerful blast caused his purple robe to flutter like a pair of purple wings. Under the contrast of the purple robe, the nearly transparent profound energy seemed to have turned into purple and gathered together, constantly intertwining and colliding with the red lightning. Wave after wave of increasingly powerful profound energy was actually able to contend against the might released by the divine artifact. Yiqing Luo was shocked by the fluctuation of this profound qi. If it wasn't for Old Man Song protecting her heart, she would have been unable to bear the heavy burden and her internal organs would have been ruptured. Good lad. He's too powerful. He actually wants to use brute force to conquer a divine tool. Old Man Song also saw this scene, and his tone was full of praise. Using brute force to conquer a divine artifact? What do you mean? This lad wants to forcibly conquer the divine artifact and tame it for you. In this way, when you get the divine artifact, you won't suffer the backlash of the divine artifact. Old Man Song clicked his tongue, This lad has deep feelings for you. When Yiqing Luo heard this, her expression immediately turned ashen. Forcibly conquer. Chapter 881. This was the reason why Diamo Xian pushed her down before she could get up and went up first? However, how could it be so easy to conquer a divine artifact? Looking at that purple and red blended together, the uneasiness in Yiqing Luo's heart started to spread wantonly. Her slender fingers curled up one by one as she clenched her fists. As though he had made up his mind, his gaze turned resolute and he quickly stepped forward. "What are you doing?" Old Man Song anxiously shouted, "Quickly retreat. With your current strength, you're completely unable to withstand the pressure of a divine artifact. I can't let Xian fall into danger for me." Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change at all as she walked straight ahead. "Xian is doing this for me. If I were to stand by the side and watch with folded arms, then what do I count as? Putting Diamo Xian in danger." And she was enjoying Diamo Xian's contribution. She couldn't do it, nor could she accept it calmly. That brat's strength is completely capable of withstanding the pressure of a divine artifact, but you can't. Old Man Tsang raised his voice, and there was a hint of reprimand in it. "He took the risk for you. If you rush over now, wouldn't all his efforts be for naught?" No matter what, Old Man Tsang would absolutely not let Yiqing Luo go over. Going there was no different from courting death. It knew better than anyone how powerful that divine artifact was. It won't lose its meaning. Yiqing Luo's fingers tightened as she gazed at Diamo Xian with lingering emotions. The divine relic has never been as important as Xian. I'd rather not have it than to see Xian put himself in danger. And, most importantly, she could sense the direction of the divine artifact. It was as if the profound heart jade was calling out to her. It was the same feeling. The artifact was calling out to her. She had a bold guess. The summoning of the divine tool was probably because she had obtained the recognition of the divine tool and was able to resist its pressure. Otherwise, the divine artifact wouldn't have summoned her alone. Even Old Man Tsang didn't sense that she was being summoned by the divine artifact. Regardless of whether this guess was true or not, since she had sensed the call of the artifact, she had to give it a try. She could not let Diamo Xian take any more risks. To Diamo Xian this consumed too much profound qi. Diamo Xian wanted to protect her and she wanted to protect Diamo Xian too. Yiqing Luo gripped the glower flame fan tightly and condensed profound qi to protect her heart meridians. Resolutely, she took a step forward and walked towards the direction of Diamo Xian. "Lil Luo? Danger, get out of the way." Diamo Xian realized Yiqing Luo's actions and immediately turned his head to look at her as his heart was in a fluster. His purple robe fluttered in the wind as he flew towards Yiqing Luo in an attempt to prevent her from stepping into the range of the divine relic's suppression. "Xian, don't worry about me. Watch your back." Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased into a bundle. She saw that Diamo Xian did not care about the red lightning which was shot out by the divine relic behind him, and just blindly headed towards her direction. Yiqing Luo didn't want to become his burden. Seeing that the red lightning was about to hit Diamo Xian, Yiqing Luo's heart skipped a beat, the chant overflowed from her mouth and her feet started moving at the same time. Teleportation secret technique. But in the blink of an eye, she appeared behind Diamo Xian. The silver threads shot out from the glowing flame fan formed a protective barrier at the fastest speed, blocking in front of him. Diamo Xian was slightly startled. Thinking of the scene of the young lady disappearing in front of him in a flash, even he couldn't catch her afterimage of movement. Yiqing Luo displayed the teleportation secret technique. "Little Luo, you're messing around again." His words were full of complaints. However, there was a hint of helplessness and pampering in his tone. Their thoughts were the same. They just wanted to protect each other. Chapter 882. The red lightning struck down with crackling sounds. There were countless electric currents running through it. Diamo Xian had already turned around, stretched out his hand to hold Yiqing Luo's slender waist, raised his palm to condense profound qi, and was about to meet the lightning. A shocking scene happened. The red lightning, after touching the silver silk shield that Yiqing Luo had formed, it actually flickered slightly and the electric current disappeared directly. The surging red light and airflow in the surroundings also stopped at this moment. Everything returned to peace. It was as if the pressure of the divine relic had never appeared. Yiqing Luo looked at the silver silk shield in front of her and slowly withdrew the silver silk. She stared at the entrance of the red light which could accommodate one person in a daze, with a surprised look. What is going on? Could it be, her guess was true? The divine relic summoned her and acknowledged her? So, when she came to meet the divine relic withdrew all the protective energy? A finger flicked on her forehead. Diamo Xian sighed helplessly. If I knew that the divine relic had acknowledged you, I wouldn't have wasted so much effort to rush up. So tiring. Sure enough, this meant that the divine relic had acknowledged her. Looking at the faint outline in the red light, Yiqing Luo's brows did not ease because of the divine relic's approval. What? Would the divine relic approve of me? There were only 4 of them who entered the sealed space. She was the weakest among the 4 of them. No matter what, the divine relic would not take a fancy to her. If anything, it should be approved by Diamo Xian. It's very likely because the divine relic is male. Diamo Xian held his chin and answered seriously. Yiqing Luo. Divine relic was also divided into male and female? Was he kidding her? Hurry up and get the divine relic. Diamo Xian pinched her little face, his lips curved into an extremely gentle arc, his tone pampering her. Yiqing Luo rubbed her face, saw some signs of fatigue in his eyes, and knew that he was like this because of her, so she did not rebuke him for pinching her face. Instead, she obediently walked towards the entrance of the red light. Yiqing Luo hadn't noticed that after she turned around, Diamo Xian's smiling lips had slowly faded a little. His inky pupils gazed deeply at Yiqing Luo's back view. There was a profound look in his eyes. It seemed to contain some complicated emotions. After a long time, he stretched out his hand and pressed his finger against the space between his eyebrows. He let out a long sigh that was so soft that it was almost inaudible. Listening carefully, there was no longer any sound. After passing through the red light entrance, Yiqing Luo's vision fell onto the only stone table in the narrow space. The stone table was not big, about the size of a chess table. The surface of the stone table was covered with a thin layer of white cool air. When Zhang Xian got closer, he could feel an extremely cold aura invading his body. A shelf made of the same material was placed on top of the stone table. Wisps of cold air floated around it. On the stone frame there was a string of, it looked like an ornament. That's right, accessories. It was a ring carved from jade. It was different from the profound phoenix ring that Diamo Xian had given her. This ring was about the width of 2 fingers put together. The pattern on it was extremely complicated and strange. It looked a bit like a cherry blossom pattern. Faintly, there was a red light flowing on the ring. This was a divine relic? It looked like it had a sense of history passed down from ancient times. But this divine relic, did it have any special power? It's actually the Azure Water Ring. Chapter 883. Blue Water Ring? Azure Dew Bracelet? From Old Man Song's tone, he knew that there was definitely a connection between the two. No wonder you were acknowledged by the divine artifact. Old Man Song stroked his shining white beard as his spirit body flashed and circled to Yiqing Luo's side. He leaned over and stared at the ring on her palm. This ring? Could it be a set with the Azure Dew Bracelet? Old Man Song nodded with a smile on his face. His tone was unable to conceal his excitement. I forgot to tell you that there is indeed a set of Azure Water accessories. However, the Azure Water Bracelet isn't included. A set of Azure Water accessories? Then why wasn't the Azure Dew Bracelet a part of the set? This old man was born in the Azure Dew Bracelet. Before I became an artifact spirit, the Azure Dew Bracelet already existed. As for the origin of the Azure Dew Bracelet, this old man is not too clear. Old Man Song was in a good mood and he became more talkative. According to this old man's memories, the previous owner of the Azure Dew Bracelets probably only wanted to forge the Azure Dew Bracelets. In the end, because there were too many materials, he forged another set of ornaments. But, Old Man Song paused. The Azure Dew Bracelet is the main magic artifact. The amount of profound energy and spiritual energy poured into it is much greater than that set of ornaments. That was to say, the reason why the Azure Dew Bracelet was able to contain Old Man Song and had the Purgatory Pagoda within it was because the original owner of the Azure Dew Bracelet had once spent a great deal of spiritual energy to refine it. Although the other Azure Water series accessories could be called divine artifacts, they couldn't compare to the Azure Dew Bracelet. And because she had signed a contract with the Azure Dew Bracelet, her body contained the energy of the Azure Dew Bracelet. Thus, after sensing the existence of the Azure Dew Bracelet, the Azure Dew Bracelet took the initiative to summon her, and even acknowledged her as its new master? Thinking about it this way, it did seem to make sense. Since you've already encountered the first Azure Dew ornament, then the following 4 kinds of ornaments, you should also gather them. Old Man Song's spirit body circled around Yi Qing Luo once before entering the Azure Dew bracelet. Find the other 4 accessories? Was he going to summon the dragon god? These were all divine artifacts. A ring had once caused the sect masters of the 4 major sects to mobilize so many people to seal it. The other accessories were obviously not that easy to find. A single divine artifact isn't that powerful. Of course it's a great help to you now. Old Man Song explained. After gathering all 5 azure water accessories, the divine weapon's power will undergo an earth-shattering change. Yi Qing Luo gripped the azure dew ring tightly as she felt the flowing red light above and sighed lightly. Azure water accessories, a set of 5. Let's not talk about the power of the divine tool. Just for the sake of Old Man Song, the other ornaments must be retrieved. That brat is still waiting for you. Go out first. If you're any later, he'll directly rush in. Old Man Song seemed to have sensed the situation outside and laughed in a low voice. Diamo Shen would indeed do so. Even if the divine artifact acknowledged her, there was no guarantee that nothing would happen. Yi Qing Luo wore the ring on her finger and immediately walked out from the entrance. Just as she stepped out of the mouth of the red light, she crashed into Diamo Shen's arms. Obviously, Diamo Shen was prepared to enter the red light entrance. Are you all right? Diamo Shen's gaze swiftly swept across Yi Qing Luo's body to ascertain that she wasn't injured, and his heart, which was hanging in suspense, finally calmed down. Yi Qing Luo shook the ring on her fingertip. This is a divine artifact. Diamo Shen recognized it at a glance. Azure Dew ring? I didn't expect that the divine artifact sealed here would be the Azure Dew ring. You also know about this ring? Yi Qing Luo touched the ring. She didn't sense any special power on the ring. Was it really a divine artifact? Idiot, you should first contract with the Azure Dew ring. Diamo Shen helplessly laughed and reached out to hold her little hand. With a sweep of his fingertip, a drop of fresh blood condensed on his fingertip. Chapter 884. Yi Qing Luo didn't feel any pain. There was no trace of a wound on his fingers. Her heart warmed. Diamo Shen didn't even want to see the blood and wounds of the contract on her body. He would rather expend his profound chi to extract a drop of her blood. Although it was just a casual action. But Yi Qing Luo could feel that Diamo Shen cherished her. Her lips curled upwards as her charming eyes were filled with deep affection, smiling as she gazed at Diamo Shen's peerless side profile. No matter from which angle, this man, appeared handsome, profound, and calm. It was only when she felt a burning sensation on her fingertips that she came back to her senses. Ah! Subconsciously, he wanted to retract his hand. Her wrist was tightly locked by Diamo Shen. Little Luo is so infatuated with this face of mine? Diamo Shen's fingertips caressed her palm as he teasingly curled his lips and looked at her sideways. Yi Qing Luo's cheeks flushed red as she stared at him in embarrassment. The man's low and deep laughter could be heard, as if he was extremely happy. Soon after, Diamo Shen's large palm covered her head and slowly slid down to the fringe on her forehead, rubbing it. If you want to look at me, wait until we return to the room tonight. I'll let you look at me for as long as you want. But for now, it's better to concentrate your attention on the Azure Dew ring. Shameless. Yi Qing Luo's face turned even redder as she slapped his palm away in shame and indignation, as a light snort came out from her nose. Only then did he place his gaze on the azure water ring. Within the Azure Dew bracelet, Old Man Song covered his eyes. He held his forehead and sighed, shaking his head. Ayaya, a girl's home is a girl's home. If I hadn't seen this shy girl with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed that this girl with a face like a peach blossom and eyes filled with shyness was Luoya. If it wasn't for Diamo Shen, I'm afraid I would have treated last Luo as a man. After Yi Qing Luo's blood fused into the azure aqua ring, the red lightning on the ring increased its speed. Red light quickly blossomed from the ring, like waves of red ripples. The cherry blossom patterns carved on the ring seemed to move with the wind, and petals swirled in the air. He didn't know if it was an illusion. Yi Qing Luo could actually smell the fragrance of cherry blossoms. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared. As the cherry blossoms fluttered in the air, the red electric currents seemed to flow with ancient lines. The scorching heat burned her fingers. After the contract, the power of the ring will be yours to use. Diamo Shen looked at Yi Qing Luo's eyes filled with joy, as his charming eyes sparkled with a sparkling luster, as the corners of his lips curled into an arc. After forming the contract, Yi Qing Luo could distinctly feel a powerful force unceasingly flowing and pouring into her heart, lingering around the nurturing, profound jade heart surroundings. However, this powerful energy did not fuse with the profound heart jade. However, it continued to linger in the surroundings, as if it was causing a backlash against the profound heart jade. If Yiqing Luo could see the current her, she would definitely be shocked. The current Yiqing Luo was enveloped in a ball of red glow. It made her extremely beautiful face look even more beautiful than before. Especially that pair of long and narrow eyes, under the embellishment of the red glow, seemed to emit a charm that could steal one's soul. Let's go and retrieve your profound jade heart. Dmo Xian's palm had been embracing Yiqing Luo's slender waist, while the other hand held her slender wrist. He naturally sensed that something was wrong with Yiqing Luo's heart. The two turned around and left the sealed space. Perhaps Yiqing Luo and the Azure Aqua Ring had already formed a blood contract. 3,000 spaces didn't show any other unusual movements. The two had just walked out of 3,000 spaces when they saw a profound practitioner dressed in a black robe. Even his head was covered tightly, quietly heading towards the place where the giant beast totem had split open. Chapter 885. Dark Forces People? Yiqing Luo recognized this attire at one glance. As expected, there were still people from the Dark Forces in King Ling's tomb. Dmo Xian released Yiqing Luo's slender waist as his purple robe swept, and he had already appeared in front of the black-robed man as he stretched out his hand to stop the black-robed man's intention to snatch the profound heart jade. The black-robed man didn't expect that they would turn back so coincidentally. Dmo Xian dangerously narrowed his long peach blossom eyes as he gazed at the black-robed man's hand. Before he could describe it, a strong air wave turned into a turbulent line with imposing manner as it attacked towards the black-robed man's hand. The black-robed man's reaction was extremely fast. As Dmo Xian neared, he swiftly retracted his hand and retreated a few steps. After stabilizing himself, the black-robed man immediately turned around and was about to leave. This black-robed man was the only clue to the dark forces. He was also the medium to release the profound yin qi in Long Yunzhan's body. How would Dmo Xian let the black-robed man leave? Without any hesitation, he chased after the black-robed man. Since you dare to snatch Lil Luo'er's special profound heart jade, why run? Dmo Xian's rosy lips curled up slightly as his eyes were covered with frost. That black-robed man's footsteps became faster and faster. Only, how could the black-robed man's speed compare to Dmo Xian? But within a few breaths, the black-robed man had already been stopped by Dmo Xian. Dark Forces people? That dog shitlord asked you to take Lil Luo'er's profound heart jade? Dmo Xian stood in front of the black-robed man as his voice was gentle as though he was having an ordinary chat, calm and indifferent. The man hidden under the black robe seemed to tremble. But he still didn't say a word. Dmo Xian lost his patience as his 5 fingers locked onto the black-robed man's neck as his fingertips flicked lightly. The black robe slid down from the black-robed man's head. Creak, a crisp cracking sound could be heard. The black robe fell off and revealed a set of ghastly white bones under the black robe. The moment the black robe was ripped off, the white bones that were used to prop up the frame broke. Substitution forbidden technique? Dmo Xian's expression changed slightly as he speedily threw the white bone in his hand out. He raised his eyes towards Yiqing Luo and as he dashed towards her, he cried out sharply, "Lil Luo, be careful." Yiqing Luo stood by the side of the huge beast's mouth, observing their battle situation without blinking. Dmo Xian lifted up his black robe and she saw the scene of eerie white bones underneath. Old Man Tsang reminded him in his mind. This was also a type of forbidden technique called the substitution forbidden technique. By consuming a large amount of profound jade heart's energy and absorbing a large amount of demonic energy, he could use the simplest of things to create his own substitute. After listening to Old Man Tsang's explanation, Yiqing Luo immediately withdrew from the huge beast's seal and with a fierce slap of her palm, the huge beast which had split open once again closed up. Her opponent's goal was her profound heart jade. The profound heart jade that had already disappeared for so long. With great difficulty he finally saw his profound heart jade. How could Yiqing Luo possibly allow the Dark Forces people to take away her profound heart jade? She needed her profound jade heart. He needed his own profound heart jade. The moment the giant beast closed up, a black shadow appeared behind it. A gloomy and cold aura attacked from behind. Bam bam bam, that black-robed man's original body directly struck out several palm winds. Bursts of palm winds landed on the rock wall which was covered with totems, causing the surroundings to shake endlessly. The ground shook but this sealed ground didn't have a single piece of gravel falling. That huge beast which had opened its bloody mouth and stuck out its scarlet red tongue, didn't suffer any damage at all. However, the young lady who originally thought that she would be smashed into a meat patty under the palm winds. After the dust dispersed, there wasn't a single figure to be seen. The black-robed man reacted, turned his head and swiftly retreated, sticking close to the huge beast's rock wall. Chapter 886. The glower flame fan waved at her fingertips and a strong red glow struck towards the black-robed man's face. Things had already exceeded the black-robed man's expectations. You who have lost your profound jade heart still have such an agile reaction. A hoarse ear-piercing voice was heard from under the black robe. It was an old man's voice and the words he said seemed to be uttered with great difficulty. Following that, the black-robed man's figure turned into an afterimage as he dodged Yi Qing Luo's attack. A blood blade suffused with profound yin qi shot out from under the black-robed man's robe. Its imposing manner was like a swift and violent arrow leaving the bow. Yi Qing Luo's 5 fingers gripped the glower flame fan tightly as a surge of profound qi surged from her body towards the feather fan. She took the opportunity to open the feather fan and swept up thousands of huge waves as she met those blood blades with ease. The two forces collided in midair. The black profound yin qi instantly wrapped around Yi Qing Luo's profound qi. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed as the feather fan shot out a few strands of silver silk. The silver light flickered as it densely blossomed. Like a sharp blade, it sliced the mysterious yin qi into several pieces with a crackling sound. Up in midair, the two waves of power instantly dissipated. The two of them stood face to face. The black-robed man also became serious. Yi Qing Luo was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. How many people from the dark forces are there in the Ling King's tomb? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she looked coldly at the black-robed man. Her peripheral vision saw Diamo Xian standing beside the huge beast totem with its bloody mouth wide open, looking as though he was watching by the side. She knew that he was prepared to let her handle the matter herself. The black-robed man also noticed that the powerful man had no intention to make a move. He then put his heart at ease as he laughed sinisterly. There aren't many people, but it's enough to make you unable to leave the Ling King's tomb. Do you think you can leave? Yi Qing Luo scoffed disapprovingly as her eyes were filled with coldness. The black-robed man was fearless. Silly lass, spouting nonsense just because you have some tricks up your sleeves. I want to see how you are going to stop me from leaving. The black-robed man's figure charged towards Yi Qing Luo once again. His target wasn't Yi Qing Luo, but the profound jade heart on the huge beast's scarlet tongue. As long as he took away the profound heart jade and left, his mission would be considered complete. Boom. A loud sound rang out. Yi Qing Luo opened her feather fan without any hesitation, not caring that Diamo Xian was still standing beside the huge beast, as she launched the next wave of attack. His imposing Xian Qi continued to bombard the area. How could the black-robed man still have the chance to approach the profound heart jade? Moreover, the black-robed man absolutely believed it. If he were to touch a single strand of hair on Yi Qing Luo, that powerful man standing under the huge beast's mouth would not hesitate to tear him into pieces. The black-robed man clenched his fists tightly. Without the two of them noticing, he cut his palm with one of his fingers. A drop of blood enveloped by the mysterious yin qi slowly melted into the ground. The ball of mysterious yin qi that was wrapped around him also dissipated. Yi Qing Luo set off a strong air wave, blowing the black robe on top of the man's head down. It revealed a pair of extremely sinister and strange eyes. It was like an ice-cold poisonous snake. The corners of the black-robed man's mouth curled into a strange, cold smile, as though he was ridiculing Yi Qing Luo's ignorance. Yi Qing Luo seemed to have realized something, as the cold glint in her eyes deepened. The attacks from the glower flame fan in her hands became even more ferocious. The enchanting red aura's pressure rose steadily. That azure dew ring on her fingertip, following the rise of Yi Qing Luo's imposing manner, also gradually emitted a scorching hot feeling. At her heart, a strong Xian Qi started to surge. In a split second, numerous silver threads intertwined with that Xian Qi, densely shooting out in all directions. Chapter 887. The black-robed man's lips twitched in disdain as his peripheral vision kept observing Diamo Xian. Seeing that he still had no intention to make a move, that smirk of ridicule on his lips grew thicker. Just as Yi Qing Luo's attack was about to land on the black-robed man, the entire sealed area began to rumble and shake violently. A black figure scurried to the front of the black-robed man. A pair of azure blue eyes were calm without any ripples. At the same time, the owner of this pair of azure blue eyes raised the blue long sword in his hand as he stabbed towards Yiqing Luo. It seemed as though he wanted to perish together with Yiqing Luo. On seeing Long Yunzhan's appearance, Yiqing Luo's heart trembled. She thought that the black-robed man wanted to take the opportunity to leave the sealed grounds. She had not expected the black-robed man to summon Long Yunzhan over. He wanted to use Long Yunzhan's life to exchange for her life? This plan was really well planned. She had not given up on the idea of letting them kill each other. Ha ha ha. Just in time for the most exciting scene. A sharp laughter was heard from the top of the Ling King's main tomb. Following that, Shangguan Liuli leapt down with a smile on her face which was filled with a complacent smile. Yiqing Luo noticed that the injuries on Shangguan Liuli had already recovered. It was probably the effect of the profound yin qi. Shangguan Liuli's eyes, which were painted with gold powder, were filled with frenzied hatred. That delicate face was twisted. Yiqing Luo, if you retract this move, you will not be able to avoid your group leader's sword. If you avoid your group leader's sword, then your group leader will die under your attack. Saying that, Shangguan Liuli started laughing loudly. Her laughter was extremely maniacal and filled with satisfaction. What will you choose, Yiqing Luo? Go. Guan. Lo. Li. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth as she stared at that young lady who was laughing maniacally. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. It was Shangguan Liuli again, that annoying scumbag. Time and time again she made use of Long Yunzhan to hurt him. Long Yunzhan's profound yin qi was related to Shangguan Liuli. Facing Yiqing Luo's murderous intent, Shangguan Liuli wasn't afraid at all. She laughed savagely. She wanted to see if Yiqing Luo would choose to be injured for the sake of the so-called loyalty. People are always selfish. No one would be willing to sacrifice themselves for others. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth as she retracted her gaze. Right now, what she needed to think about was how to ensure her and Long Yunzhan's safety. As for Shangguan Liuli, that hopping grasshopper, once he was done with this matter, he would deal with her. It would be a piece of cake. Looking at Long Yunzhan's expressionless face, his profound energy was already closing in on him, but he didn't have the slightest intention of opening it. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly pale. It was impossible for her to let the profound energy she had released earlier land on Long Yunzhan's body. She naturally understood exactly how much energy she'd expended to sweep up that strand of profound energy earlier. If Long Yunzhan really took it, Long Yunzhan was either dead or crippled. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed as she secretly gritted her teeth. At this moment, the silver threads of the glower flame fan swiftly retracted and immediately rolled up another strong wave of qi. Forcefully, it caused the profound energy which was released earlier to deviate by an angle. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's footwork extended as she displayed her own set of strange footwork in an attempt to avoid Long Yunzhan's attack. But Yiqing Luo had forgotten about it. Even if Long Yunzhan's consciousness was controlled by the profound yin qi, but this body was still Long Yunzhan's body. At the same time when Yiqing Luo's footwork was displayed, Long Yunzhan's body had already predicted that she would make such a move. Immediately, his long sword tilted. Chapter 888. Little Luo, Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes were deep and gloomy as he was about to make a move to fetch Yiqing Luo. Seeing this, the man in black quickly rushed toward the giant beast. Dmo Xian's eyes narrowed as his purple robe fluttered. His cold and piercingly cold voice was intimidating. Under this lord's eyes, how dare you snatch the thing that this lord wants? As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful profound energy erupted from his surroundings. Wave after wave they spread throughout the entire sealed area. The black-clothed man who was rushing toward the giant beast was forced to spit out a mouthful of blood under the strong pressure. He fell to the ground, unable to move. Dmo Xian gave a light harumph as he turned his head to look at Yiqing Luo. Long Yunzhan hugged the young girl whose shoulder was pierced in the shoulder. Long Yunzhan's hand which was holding the long sword was stained with Yiqing Luo's blood as he kept on trembling and crying out. Faintly, one could see Long Yunzhan's trembling body. He was about to step forward, but he stopped. A vortex that seemed to be able to swallow everything surged in the depths of his dark and gloomy eyes. He turned around and returned to the side of the huge beast's bloody mouth, quietly guarding Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart. Yiqing Luo's face turned pale from the pain as she glanced at the wound on her shoulder. As expected of a sword made from the bones of a human and a dragon. Just by grazing her shoulder, so much blood gushed out. Her body was in Long Yunzhan's arms. She could clearly feel Long Yunzhan's long body trembling. Ajan? Yiqing Luo endured the intense pain on her shoulder as she called out Long Yunzhan's name softly. Long Yunzhan's body trembled even more. His chest was forcefully propped up by Yiqing Luo, and when she saw his face, Yiqing Luo was stunned. That pair of azure eyes at this moment was enduring some kind of intense pain. The black aura in his eyes kept moving. With every movement, Long Yunzhan's brows furrowed a little more. However, he forcefully suppressed this intense pain. It seemed to be fighting intensely against the mysterious Yin Qi. Yiqing Luo understood something. The sword in Long Yunzhan's hand was made from Long Yunzhan's bones. After being stained with her blood, Long Yunzhan naturally sensed her presence. It was her blood that awakened Long Yunzhan's consciousness. Her eyes sparkled as she reached out and gripped Long Yunzhan's clothes, speaking in a gentle voice, "Ah Zhan, it's me. Open your eyes and look at me." The cries caused Long Yunzhan to reveal an extremely pained expression. At this moment, the mysterious Yin energy flowing in his eyes grew larger and larger, swirling around him. Long Yunzhan couldn't bear the heavy burden as he howled loudly, as he loosened Yiqing Luo's petite body. Then he turned around and rushed out of the sealed area, disappearing without a trace. Yiqing Luo stabilized her body and chased after Long Yunzhan for a few steps, but helplessly the wound on her shoulder emitted a tearing pain. She put her hand on her shoulder and gave up on the idea of chasing after him. Her blood still remained on Long Yunzhan's long sword. He would definitely be able to make Long Yunzhan regain his rationality. What a scene of deep affection and righteousness. Shangguan Liuli stared at Yiqing Luo malevolently, her eyes filled with viciousness. It was such a good opportunity, but it didn't develop according to his imagination. They had not expected that Yiqing Luo really chose to accept their group leader's sword and not let him get hurt. This ridiculous sense of loyalty, it was simply a joke. Shangguan Liuli's eyes were filled with wanton profound Yin energy as her 5 fingers suddenly turned into eagle claws, charging towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Yiqing Luo gave a cold laugh as the feather fan in her hands flipped a few times, directly welcoming Shangguan Liuli's attack. Profound qi surged like a rainbow, creating a devilish crack in the air. That black profound Yin energy intertwined with Yiqing Luo's red glow. Bam! Chapter 889. Even though Shangguan Liuli had the mysterious Yin Qi to back her up, Shangguan Liuli was just a piece of trash. Yiqing Luo sneered, her fingertips touched the scorching ring and her 5 fingers clenched tightly. A powerful profound qi that caused one's heart to palpitate burst forth from Yiqing Luo's body. Shangguan Liuli's expression suddenly changed. Just as he was about to turn around and run, a piercing chill came from behind him. Shangguan Liuli knew that she couldn't escape, so she gave up and racked her brains to think of a way to deal with it. Suddenly an idea flashed past her mind as she anxiously said, "Yiqing Luo, you can't kill me. The woman who blocked the sword for you earlier, the poison in her body was not only from the purple poppy grass. There was also the powder specially made by the dark forces. If you kill me, that woman will die too." Shangguan Liuli's words successfully stopped the movements of the people behind her. The glowing flame fan was only a few fingers away from her neck. "What did you say?" Yiqing Luo's fingers tightened on the feather fan as she questioned him coldly. It was a matter of life and death. No matter how quick-witted Shangguan Liuli was, she knew that it was a matter of life and death. As long as she could use that woman as a threat, Yiqing Luo would absolutely not dare to kill her. Thinking up to this point, Shangguan Liuli's expression calmed down. "If you don't believe me, you can kill me and go back to find some purple millet grass to see if you can save your companion." Shangguan Liuli raised her neck high, as though waiting for Yiqing Luo to strike. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists, her long and narrow eyes were piercingly cold. In the end, he put away the feather fan. Regardless of whether Shangguan Liuli's words were true or false, Yiqing Luo didn't even dare to use Yan Xiaoyi's life to probe. If Yan Xiaoyi was really poisoned by the dark forces, ghost doctor, he didn't know if he could make an antidote. Shangguan Liuli heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the danger was resolved, and then a wisp of a cold smile appeared on her face. Letting go of a person who wanted him dead was the worst choice he could make. Unfortunately, Yiqing Luo let her off. Just for that ridiculous sense of brotherhood. Shangguan Liuli was dismissive. Things like loyalty would only become her stumbling block. There was nothing in this world that could be relied on. Only he could use all his means to stand at the peak. What poison did she get? Yiqing Luo suppressed the anger in her heart and stared at Shangguan Liuli with a murderous look. "If I told you, would I still be able to leave this place alive?" Shangguan Liuli sneered, the black chi slowly covering her body once more. If I asked you to leave, would you still tell me? Yiqing Luo's charming eyes suddenly turned piercingly cold. Her fingertips pinched the glower flame fan as she approached in a flash, unafraid of the profound yin qi surrounding Shangguan Liuli. With a wave of the feather fan, the dark yin qi was split open. In the blink of an eye, she had already approached Shangguan Liuli. She reached out and grabbed Shangguan Liuli's collar. You dare to play such petty tricks in front of me? Yiqing Luo's speed was so fast that even the profound yin qi had not detected her. Shangguan Liuli stared at Yiqing Luo in astonishment, as she obviously felt that Yiqing Luo's power had increased once again. The divine relic had fallen into Yiqing Luo's hands? Shangguan Liuli's peripheral vision glanced at the ring on Yiqing Luo's fingertip as her pupils contracted slightly. Noticing Shangguan Liuli's expression, Yiqing Luo directly locked her lower jaw as she sneered, "Looks like you've just tasted some sweetness and you're so obedient to that so-called lord of yours? Thinking of helping that lord to get the divine relic?" Shangguan Liuli's face instantly turned pale as her pupils contracted. Chapter 890. However, Shangguan Liuli's tone was flustered, as well as that unconcealable flickering glint in her eyes which had tried her best to make her expression calm. It showed that Shangguan Liuli absolutely knew the Dark Force's lord, and knew that the Dark Force's objective for this mission was the God Relic. Shangguan Liuli's evasive words made Yiqing Luo suspicious of Shangguan Liuli's identity, those people whom she met who made deals with the Dark Forces. Other than Yiqing Qian, no one else was able to control the profound yin qi freely. On the contrary, most of them were controlled by the profound yin qi. Not to mention knowing about the Lord. The last time they met, Yiqing Luo had not detected any profound yin qi from Shangguan Liuli, which meant that Shangguan Liuli's deal with the Dark Forces was just a matter of a few days. In just a few days, Shangguan Liuli already knew about the Dark Force's internal situation, knew about the Lord, knew the objective of this mission. Logically speaking, the Dark Forces belonged to the group of rats. They were the most cautious in everything they did. If it was just to make use of the relationship, how would it be possible for a dumb pig like Shangguan Liuli to know more about the Dark Forces? Unless... What did Shangguan Liuli take to make a deal with the Dark Forces? Or perhaps... Just as she was deep in thoughts, Shangguan Liuli seemed to have noticed Yiqing Luo's daze. She immediately struck out with her palm. A strong gush of air came towards her, and the sense of danger made Yiqing Luo subconsciously let go of her hand as she retreated a few steps. Shangguan Liuli immediately flew towards the direction of the main tomb. Trying to escape? Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as the feather fan in her hand moved and a burst of profound qi pressed forward. When it got near to Shangguan Liuli, it transformed into a huge red dragon as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws to block Shangguan Liuli's path. Coincidentally, that black-robed man had already reached the entrance of the main tomb and was about to leave. But because of Shangguan Liuli's nearing, even the black-robed man was blocked. Black-robed man's face turned steely green as he silently scolded Shangguan Liuli for not knowing what's good for her. Shangguan Liuli looked at the huge red dragon in disbelief, although she knew that this was just an illusion formed from profound qi. But when the huge dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws to bite her head, her heart still felt terrified. Just at this moment, all of a sudden the entire sealed land began to shake. The incomparably sturdy walls covered with giant beast totems began to crack. A powerful fluctuation of profound qi spread out in the sealed area. In an instant, the entire sealed area was filled with smoke and dust, and gravel flew in all directions. Diamo Xian seemed to have realized something as his gloomy black eyes flickered faintly as he opened his mouth. "Lil Luo, come over." Even with the protection of a divine artifact, this powerful undulation was nothing. Yiqing Luo also felt the pressure. Yiqing Luo didn't try to be brave as she immediately turned around and flew towards Diamo Xian. At the same time, the profound qi in the air began to fluctuate like the clouds and rain. Bang bang bang, boom boom boom, a deafening sound directly exploded at the place where Yiqing Luo was standing earlier. Gravel flew everywhere in an instant. The giant beast totem on the wall trembled and cracked, but it still looked very lifelike. Yiqing Luo glanced at it from the corner of her eyes and felt that the appearance of that huge beast was extremely familiar. He felt as if he was about to recall something. Suddenly he heard Shangguan Liuli's ecstatic voice, "My lord! My lord?" When Yiqing Luo heard this form of address, her sharp eyes looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw a figure covered in a black robe looming in the midst of the dust. That figure walked directly in front of Shangguan Liuli and stretched out his hand to grab her arm. Chapter 891. The strong wind stirred and the air billowed. The moment that person grabbed Shangguan Liuli and left the sealed ground, the black robe covering that person's head had a small corner blown open. Coincidentally, that person turned his head and looked over. His gaze met with Yiqing Luo's. But in the blink of an eye, that person shifted his gaze, grabbed Shangguan Liuli and disappeared in a blink of an eye. Yiqing Luo didn't chase after him. She also knew that it was impossible to catch up. Only, if she didn't see wrongly that Lord's eyes. It was the ruthlessness of dipped poison. As though he hated her to the core. That pair of eyes looked like a woman's eyes. And there was a vaguely familiar feeling. That was the boss of the dark forces, the person who was addressed as Lord? No. Yiqing Luo felt that something was strange. Powerful strength as well as a daunting pressure. Indeed seemed like an extremely powerful opponent. But Yiqing Luo felt that. The mastermind of the dark forces who had been hiding in the dark, how could he appear in front of her so easily? Especially just to save Shangguan Liuli? He didn't even have the intention to take her profound jade heart. Then, why would Shangguan Liuli shout, Lord, at that person? Was it deliberately shouted for her to hear, to divert her target? Or, Shangguan Liuli really felt that person was Lord? After that person left with Shangguan Liuli, the entire sealed ground gradually quietened down. Let's leave too. Yiqing Luo restrained the deep thoughts in her eyes. She turned around and stretched out her hand to pick up her profound jade heart. Perhaps it was because she was excited to finally find her profound jade heart, her hand was slightly trembling. When she took it out, her fingertip was cut by that huge beast's realistic teeth. A drop of blood slowly dripped down along the huge beast's carved teeth. Yiqing Luo didn't pay attention to it, only holding her profound jade heart and returned to Dmo Xian's side, her eyes filled with joy. That blood slowly merged into the teeth. A ray of dark light, faintly discernible. In a split second, peace returned. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with smiles, his long and narrow peach blossom eyes were deep and serene, filled with pampering intent. Suddenly, as if he had sensed something, he turned his head to look at the giant beast with its bloody mouth wide open. Moreover, he sensed something strange and immediately retracted his gaze. Rubbing Yiqing Luo's hair, he said with a faint smile, "Fuse the profound heart jade into your body, then fuse the power of the divine weapon with the profound heart jade. Your profound grade should have an enormous increase." Yiqing Luo nodded her head hard. She tightly gripped her profound heart jade, and her pink lips hooked into an enchanting smile. Her charming eyes were long and narrow. "Before that, I still have to take care of this abandoned person." As she spoke, her gaze slowly shifted to the black-robed man who was moving at the speed of a tortoise, trying his best to make himself as inconspicuous as possible as he moved towards the exit. The black-robed man's body froze. "Do you want to live?" Yiqing Luo smiled as she gazed at him. The black-robed man hesitated for a moment and looked at Dmo Xian. He seemed to be weighing something. If it was Yiqing Luo alone, without the profound heart jade, she might still have a chance to deal with it. But that man? The black-robed man suddenly remembered that the man seemed to have called himself main body? The original body. The black-robed man's expression abruptly changed as he guessed Dmo Xian's identity. Immediately, he nodded without hesitation. "I want to live. Answer a few of my questions. If I'm satisfied, I can consider letting you leave." Yiqing Luo smiled satisfactorily as she threw out a bait. The people from the dark forces, each more selfish than the other. They were all extremely greedy for life and afraid of death. Just look at Elder Xiong and Guardian Ying and you'd know. Chapter 892. Under Dmo Xian's identity, the black-robed man totally didn't notice the murderous intent in Yiqing Luo's eyes when she said this sentence. Most importantly, in the eyes of the black-robed man, Yiqing Luo's arrogance was merely because of Dmo Xian's backing. And he didn't put Yiqing Luo in his eyes. That person earlier isn't the so-called Lord, right? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she asked the first question. The black-robed man's face instantly turned pale. That sinister and sneaky face surfaced a trace of fear and fear. He shook his head and made a cross gesture with his mouth. "Can't say?" Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as a sliver of danger appeared. The black-robed man's gaze looked towards Dmo Xian as he struggled to shake his head, indicating that he really couldn't answer this question. Yiqing Luo was about to open her mouth when Dmo Xian's warm palm covered her shoulder. Yiqing Luo looked back at him. Diamo Xian shook his head and said calmly, like this kind of shady forces, each and every one of them are selfish and it's impossible for them to sincerely surrender. Only benefits will drive them to surrender. In other words, these people from the dark forces, none of them could be trusted by the upper echelons of the dark forces. Let them enter the Nirvana realm to complete the mission. Other than the so-called Lord who had something to blackmail them with, there was no one else. These people were all inflicted with a forbidden spell. Once they mentioned anything about the Lord from the dark forces, they would die miserably. In other words, whether that person was the Lord, Yiqing Luo couldn't get any confirmation from the black-robed man. She also couldn't get any useful information from the black-robed man. Yiqing Luo indifferently straightened her waist. Since you can't get any answers, then just kill them to save time. Saying that, she held the profound heart jade and turned back to the huge beast to start fusing with it. That black-robed man was trembling in fear as he immediately shook his head and begged for mercy. I can't answer this question, but I have other information that can exchange my life. Yiqing Luo stopped her footsteps in interest. Turning back, she saw the black-robed man looking at Diamo Xian with a face full of fear. Her smile deepened as she knew the reason why the black-robed man was so obedient was because Diamo Xian was standing beside her. To tell the truth, this feeling of borrowing the tiger's might was actually quite good. The black-robed man trembled and said, "The dark forces seem to want to return to the Nirvana realm. The people who have come to the Nirvana realm have already taken up 1/3 of the dark forces." Yiqing Luo frowned as she looked at Diamo Xian. As expected, Diamo Xian's expression turned grave. It seemed like he did not receive the news that the dark forces had come to the Nirvana realm. 1/3 of the dark forces had arrived. As the number 1 evil palace, the Imperial Palace didn't receive any news? The dark forces had infiltrated the Nirvana realm too stealthily. Or could it be that the Imperial Palace's investigation level had also been infiltrated by the dark forces? Seeing that the two of them were deep in thought, the black-robed man thought that there was a chance and continued, "There are about 1,000 people who have been infected by the mysterious Yin Qi. I guess it is possible that they are trying to conquer the Nirvana realm and return to it." The black-robed man paused for a moment and hid the way he addressed him. Want to conquer the Nirvana realm? Return to the Nirvana realm? Did he want to take revenge for being expelled from the Nirvana realm? Chapter 893. Yiqing Luo's eyes were deep and serene as she remained silent for some time. Looking at Diamo Xian's grave expression, she slowly shook her head. Her tender red lips curved into a flirtatious smile. Word by word, her pink lips opened and closed. "I want to know everything except for your boss." Yiqing Luo crossed her legs and sat right below the huge beast's open mouth. Diamo Xian stood by the side, his gaze deep and serene as he gazed deeply at her, his expression calm without any ripples. Not far from the two of them was the exit of the sealed land. A corpse with a stunned expression was lying there with its eyes wide open. His eyes were filled with unwillingness as he breathed his last. Right from the start, Yiqing Luo had no intention to let this black-robed man off. She was not a kind person. In her view of the world, there were only 3 kinds of people: her own people, strangers, and enemies. If it wasn't someone from the dark organization, her brother would not encounter such a thing. If Long Yunjian regained consciousness and knew that he had done such a thing, what kind of attitude should he use to face this group of brothers? Moreover, her Shiju was also injured because of this. Right now, the brothers were at the bottom of the tomb. There was also a corpse king that was eyeing them covetously from the dark. They didn't know if they had encountered any danger. In order to leave the tomb of the Ling King as soon as possible, Yiqing Luo wanted to speed up the speed of fusing with the profound heart jade. She withdrew all kinds of thoughts and closed her eyes. Following Diamo Xian's guidance, Yiqing Luo held the profound heart jade in her palm and brought it to her chest. A bewitching red light slowly wrapped around the profound heart jade. Bit by bit, it merged into Yiqing Luo's body. The red light was bewitching and dazzling. No one discovered that in the instant it fused into the body, in the center of the profound jade heart, there was a faintly discernible wisps of black gas flashed. It was fleeting. The first feeling after the profound heart jade fused into her body was that Yiqing Luo had an obvious reaction. A powerful force filled his limbs and bones. After being baptized by the marrow cleansing pill, his meridians actually felt as if they were being filled with profound chi energy. She could feel the continuous flow of profound energy in her body. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth surged toward him, toward his heart. The child profound heart jade that was originally being nurtured in the profound heart jade suddenly jumped out of his heart. By the side, Diamo Xian stretched out his palm and caught that profound heart jade. Yiqing Luo's special profound jade heart replaced it and embedded itself deep into the heart. Bang! His chest seemed to be hit by an extremely powerful aura. Yiqing Luo's body was enveloped by a red glow as it slowly gave off a dazzling brilliance. Like a blooming rose, the flames were enchanting. A terrifying aura surged and exploded. His hair, which was simply tied up, fluttered in the wind. The ground quaked and the mountains shook. The entire tomb began to collapse due to the overwhelming force. Shake and tremble. That was submission to the strong. Last. Seizing the chance to absorb the azure water ring's power. Fuse with the profound heart jade. Old Man Song's tone was unable to conceal his joy. The azure dew bracelet also gradually began to heat up. One could see how excited Old Man Song was. Hearing what was said, Yiqing Luo began to follow Old Man Song's directions. When she formed a blood contract with the azure dew ring, the power that flowed within her body and was unable to fuse with the profound heart jade, slowly and kindly welcomed it into her own profound heart jade. Perhaps it was because this profound heart jade was hers. That azure dew ring's power circled around Yiqing Luo's heart once before it began to slowly seep into her body. The surrounding air began to distort, stagnate. Chapter 894. Bam bam bam. Strong profound chi kept colliding against the surroundings. The air was stagnant and heavy. Carrying a majestic pressure, it made one's breathing became extremely difficult. Finally, the entire sealed ground collapsed as it couldn't bear the pressure. However, that shattered huge stone, at the instant it crashed into Yiqing Luo, it was rebounded. That was an array barrier. The array barrier which Diamo Xian had set up. Diamo Xian didn't pay any attention to the surrounding situation. The current his gaze was fixated on Yiqing Luo, paying close attention to her. His deep black eyes could only accommodate Yiqing Luo one person. He allowed the broken stones to collapse and the tomb to be destroyed. A ray of light shot into the tomb. Following that, densely packed light rays shone downwards. Following the destruction of the earth and mountains. Rumble, the tomb completely collapsed. A radius of 100 miles was leveled to flat ground. Vice Group Leader Qing Luo. Worried voices shouted out in unison. But they saw Yiqing Luo's eyes shut tightly, apparently in meditation. Qiao Jin immediately made everyone keep quiet. Over 100 people rushed over in unison. But no one opened their mouths to speak. After the tomb collapsed, all the stone walls had already turned into nothingness. If it wasn't for the fact that Baiming Lian City had urgently set up the array barrier at the critical moment, they were afraid. Even if they weren't crushed to death by the huge stones, then they would also be shocked to death by this majestic and powerful energy. 100 of them were all enveloped in Baiming Lian City's array barrier, as they looked at Yiqing Luo with a complicated and shocked expression. Originally they thought that to release such a powerful energy and to flatten the entire tomb, other than the Overlord, there was no one else. Of course, there was a possibility that the mastermind behind this had appeared. They were burning with anxiety, worried about Yiqing Luo. But they had not expected that the one who released such a powerful energy was actually Yiqing Luo. Zhou, why are there so many people around? Suddenly, a World Link mercenary's voice was trembling slightly. This sentence made everyone's gaze shift away from Yiqing Luo. When they looked around, everyone's eyes widened in shock. They saw the entire King Ling's tomb was surrounded by at least 2,000 to 3,000 people, a black mass. They were at least 50 meters away from the tomb. The entire tomb was surrounded by 3 layers of guards. Judging from their uniform, there were at least a few hundred people from different forces gathered here. What was going on? Why were there so many people outside the tomb for no apparent reason? Mercenary group? Someone has indeed barged into the tomb of the Ling King. Could it be that the seal on the divine artifact was broken by these kids? Let's see which one of them has a divine artifact. What are you looking at? Just kill him and the divine artifact will come out. Everyone was talking at once, discussing spiritedly. The group of people in the world group were all stunned when they heard that. What divine artifact? What seal? What exactly was the purpose of the profound practitioners of these powers coming here? Just as the mercenaries were looking at each other in confusion, a strange light flashed across their faces. The earth shook and the mountains shook again. Following that, Yiqing Luo, who was originally sitting cross-legged, suddenly floated up into mid-air. A ball of flame-like light enveloped her whole body. Boom, boom, boom. Within 100 miles of her surroundings, the profound chi instantly exploded as though it was a sea of fire. The surrounding thousands of cultivators were all injured by this profound chi. Those who reacted quickly opened up a barrier to defend. Those who were slow to react were directly sent flying by the profound chi. Chapter 895. Yi Qing Luo slowly opened her eyes. The bewitching red glow was like a sharp blade as it shot out. Dressed in black, the cherry blossoms on her sleeves swayed along with the wind. Like a ball of flame, it was burning. She retracted her gaze as she gazed at her surroundings. Like a high and mighty queen, looking disdainfully at all living beings in the heavens. She had advanced. More accurately, she had broken through. At the fourth stage of the profound realm, after fusing with his incomparably special profound jade heart, the speed at which he absorbed profound energy, as well as the speed at which he cultivated, was 100 times faster than before. Adding on to the blood-packed God relic, sharing energy with the God relic. She had directly leaped a profound grade. Successfully advanced to Earth profound 4th grade realm. She could be called as a high-leveled cultivator. Earth profound grade. In the entire West continent, there were no more than 500 people who could name this name. Earth profound grade and above could be called as high-leveled cultivators. Like Yi Qing Luo, who was merely 15 years old, had already become an Earth profound 4th grade high-leveled cultivator. Even in the entire Nirvana realm, she was probably the number one. Advanced? Vice Group Leader advanced? I can't tell Vice Group Leader's profound grade, such a powerful strength. Surely she's already in Earth profound grade? She's absolutely above Earth profound grade. Heavens. You know, before today, our Vice Group Leader was only in Mystic profound grade. That's too abnormal. Vice Group Leader is simply the most abnormal among the abnormal. The youngsters in the World Group were about to kneel down in front of Yi Qing Luo. One must know that when Yi Qing Luo first joined Devil Class, she was only in Yellow profound grade. Later on, she leaped to Mystic profound grade. Now she was immediately promoted to Earth profound grade. Other people had to spend over 10 years or even their entire lives to not be able to cross the profound grade. Yi Qing Luo only spent less than 2 months' time. That was too exciting. Over at Death God Mercenary Group, when they saw Yi Qing Luo floating in midair, they couldn't help but go into a daze. At this moment, no one could remain calm. It was too unbelievable. Yi Fengyu's face turned green and white. Nangong Firen's eyes widened in disbelief as he felt a sense of loss. The distance between him and Yi Qing Luo had once again. And the surrounding thousands of people were boiling. The powers that had come here naturally included the powers of the 4 great clans. Yuchi family's patriarch recognized Yi Qing Luo at one glance as he immediately blurted out, Isn't she 3 Spring Sect's young matriarch Yi Qing Luo? How could this be? The Yuchi patriarch remembered it very clearly. 1 month ago, he even brought a large group of Yuchi family's guards to the old residence in an attempt to bring Yi Qing Luo away. The Yi Qing Luo at that time, the profound rank couldn't exceed the mystic profound rank 5. It had only been a month. Patriarch Yuchi's complexion instantly turned pale, as though he had seen a monster as he stared at Yi Qing Luo. As though he was trying to find a way to deny that this imposing young lady in front of him was not the Yi Qing Luo that he knew. The moment Patriarch Yuchi's words left his mouth, the surrounding forces flared up. Who didn't know the name of the young lord of the 3 Springs sect? That was the infamous 7th young mistress. But, where's the so-called trash? How was he trash? All of them were discussing fervently as thousands of people had different expressions on their faces. The gazes which they shot towards Yi Qing Luo were filled with various emotions. He was the young lord of the 3 Springs sect. At the age of 15, she had already stepped into the Earth profound realm. Moreover, he was famous for being a wastrel. It was simply too shocking. Everyone rubbed their eyes as they couldn't believe their own eyes. However, no matter how they looked, no matter how they stared, that black-robed lady who was suspended in mid-air, with a devastatingly beautiful countenance, was the young matriarch of the 3 Springs sect Yi family's trash 7th Mississippi. Chapter 896. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes seemed to bear all the splendor between heaven and earth. The smile on her lips was enchanting, and coupled with the imposing manner she was giving off, her entire personality was exceptionally captivating. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about other people's discussions. Her line of sight was fixed on a figure not far away, hidden in the dark. Her long and narrow eyes squinted dangerously as she smiled and frowned, looking extremely flirtatious. That glass-like eyes were overflowing with brilliant colors, as though the stars in the sky, dazzling. Vice Group Leader? The World Group's mercenaries looked up at Yiqing Luo, as their eyes were filled with envy. Yiqing Luo slowly lowered her eyelids as her vision swept past everyone, as her pink lips curled into a faint arc. As though she was consoling them, making them feel at ease. Finally, her gaze was fixed on a certain spot. It was Yan Xiaoyi. Yan Xiaoyi's face was drained of blood as she leaned into Qiao Jin's arms unconsciously. There was an extremely frail-looking Shiju by the side, as it raised its huge leopard head, as its bronze bell-sized eyes stared at her in a daze. Several times it wanted to stand up and stand by her side. But it didn't seem to have any energy as it could only stare at her in a daze. Yiqing Luo's chest was in pain as her eyes overflowed with a vicious look. When she raised her eyes again, it congealed at a certain spot as her voice was extremely chilly. Shengguan Lu Li, today's enmity, I Yiqing Luo, will repay you 100-folds in the future. The two people who were hiding in the shadows saw that their concealment had been discovered and couldn't be bothered to hide anymore. They saw a black-robed man pinching Shengguan Lu Li's arm as he walked out from the shadows. Shengguan Lu Li had no signs of fear. There were so many people around, why would she be afraid of Yiqing Luo? So what if she was in Earth-profound realm? She was still no match for her. Shengguan Lu Li sneered, another day? Do you still have another day? Simply ridiculous. Even if she detected that she was hiding in the shadows, she didn't kill her directly. What vicious words that she would take revenge in the future. Did she really think that she had advanced to Earth-profound realm, so powerful that she could overturn the heavens? Shengguan Lu Li scoffed. Yiqing Luo's gaze was chilly as her lips curled into an icy arc. Really? That smile was like an Azura from hell, extremely terrifying. Shengguan Liuli shivered for no reason. However, he stubbornly refused to admit defeat. Could it be that you want to kill me in front of everyone? I'm the fifth daughter of the Shengguan clan. How dare you kill me? The Shengguan clan won't let you off. I won't kill you, at least not now. Yiqing Luo sneered as she said it word by word. You. Shengguan Liuli was stunned. She could tell that Yiqing Luo really had no intention to kill her now. If Yiqing Luo wanted to kill her, even if the surrounding people were all from the Shengguan family, Yiqing Luo wouldn't hesitate at all. Shengguan Liuli frowned, suddenly not understanding what tricks Yiqing Luo was playing. Doesn't the academy have an interclass competition? Didn't you issue a challenge to the devil class? How about I add another bet? Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a devilish smile. Shengguan Liuli's brows furrowed even more, and she subconsciously looked at the black-robed man beside her. After a silent exchange, Shengguan Liuli then looked at Yiqing Luo. What? If the devil class wins the championship, I want your profound jade heart as well as your tendons and meridians. Yiqing Luo's voice was like frost. Her tone was calm, as though she was having a casual chat. Conversely, I will hand over my profound jade heart as well as my tendons and meridians. When she said that, not only was Shengguan Liuli stunned, even the surrounding forces were stunned. Wasn't this bet a little too big? Using her profound jade heart and tendons as the bet, that was also betting her entire life. Chapter 897. You. Shengguan Liuli bit her lower lip tightly, her eyes were covered with gold powder, looking extremely comical. You're crazy. Yiqing Luo was absolutely crazy. Otherwise, why would she make such a suggestion? Anyone with eyes could tell that devil class would not be able to obtain the final victory in the interclass competition. One must know that the interclass competition was a competition between a class and a team. Even if Yiqing Luo was in the Earth Profound grade and was ranked top 10 in the Heavenly Academy's top exponent ranking, it was impossible for her to defeat the other classes. Moreover, even if the low, medium and high class 2 really lost to Yiqing Luo alone, the Academy would absolutely not let a waste class win the championship. They would definitely send out the students from the class of gods. Yiqing Luo was a top exponent, her ability was on par with the students from the class of gods. But there was only one Yiqing Luo in the devil class. And in the class of gods, every student's profound grade was above Yiqing Luo. Win the championship? How could that be possible? Shengguan Liuli couldn't understand where Yiqing Luo got her confidence from, to think that devil class could win the championship? And he even bet his entire life on this interclass competition? In front of thousands of cultivators and various forces, she made this bet. Which meant that once this bet was established, the bet must be completed. Otherwise, these forces wouldn't have stood by idly. Why, you don't dare? Yiqing Luo curled her lips coldly, her tone was filled with disdain and contempt. Shangguan Liuli's malevolent face flushed red. Why wouldn't I dare? Alright, let's bet. As long as Devil Class wins the championship, I will destroy my own profound jade heart and meridians. Just as she finished her words, Shangguan Liuli covered her mouth fiercely, feeling extremely annoyed. How could she be agitated by Yiqing Luo? He actually agreed to this ridiculous wager. But the words had already been said out in front of everyone, there was no room for regrets. Moreover, before she could regain her senses, a drop of crystal-clear blood shot out from Yiqing Luo's fingertip, directly falling onto Shangguan Liuli's forehead. In a split second, it merged into her body. Shangguan Liuli's face turned steely green as she stretched out her hand to wipe her forehead. What did you do to me? What are you doing? Don't worry, it's just a curse. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she sneered coldly. This is to prevent the both of us from reneging on the bet, isn't it? Shangguan Liuli's face turned pale, and her body trembled. She secretly thought that Yiqing Zhen was too ruthless. He was so ruthless to himself, not to mention to others. He swore on his heart's blood. It was a curse cast using the blood of his heart. Once the wager was established, if one of the parties went back on their word, then that party would be forced to carry out the wager according to the wager. For example, the bet between Yiqing Luo and Shangguan Liuli, in order to destroy the profound heart jade, had already broken all the tendons in her limbs. Then, after the curse was established, Yiqing Luo or Shangguan Liuli, whichever side lost the bet, wasn't willing to destroy their own profound jade heart and meridians. This curse would be forcefully performed. Shangguan Liuli was still remorseful and frightened. The black-robed man beside her tightened his grip on her wrist. Shangguan Liuli's face paled, and she immediately looked at the black-robed man respectfully. Shangguan Liuli's eyes lit up as if they had communicated with each other, revealing a joyful expression. What fear! What vexation and worry! She didn't need these emotions. Shangguan Liuli raised her head as she complacently looked at the young lady who was suspended in midair. Her eyes were gloomy and ruthless as she suddenly laughed out loud. That's right, she raised her voice. He had increased the volume of his voice by several times. Chapter 898. God Relic? That one sentence stirred up 10,000 waves. The various powerhouses' original mood of watching a show was instantly swept away. Everyone's vision congealed onto Yiqing Luo. God Relic was on her? Despicable. Shangguan Liuli. What rubbish are you sprouting? How would Qing Luo have any God Relic on her? Don't think that you can escape just because everyone's attention is focused on us. The World Mercenary Group's mercenaries' expressions turned especially ugly. They immediately opened their mouths to defend Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't say a word. She stared coldly at Shangguan Liuli, who had a smug look on her face. In the end, her gaze was fixed on the black-robed man beside her. King Ling's tomb had been blown up and various forces had gathered around. It must be because the dark forces had released the God Relic seal, causing the God Relic's aura to leak out, attracting various forces and a large number of cultivators to get their hands on this God Relic. After all, it was an ancient God Relic from thousands of years ago. There were too many cultivators who wanted to get it. Otherwise there wouldn't be so many cultivators gathered around here. Whereas Shangguan Liuli's words should be instructed by that black-robed man, trying to make use of the surrounding forces to stop her from capturing them? It seemed that this so-called His Lordship was still somewhat afraid of her. The surrounding forces had obviously pointed the spearhead towards Yiqing Luo. The complacent smile on Shangguan Liuli's face became even more radiant. The God Relic is on Yiqing Luo. I can testify on my identity as Shangguan family's fifth Missy. If there's any falsehood in my words, I'm willing to bear all the consequences. The other forces' eyes instantly shone. They came all the way to King Ling's tomb. Wasn't it all for this God Relic? Now the God Relic was in the hands of a young lass. So what if she was an Earth Profound expert? How could one person fight against so many of them? The various forces' men started to stir as they already had the intention to pounce towards Yiqing Luo. The World Group's mercenaries started to gather vigilantly, with DMO Xian and Yiqing Luo, who was floating in midair, as the center. They formed a tight circle as they stared vigilantly at those surrounding forces. From those forces' cultivators' eyes, the mercenaries could clearly see the gleam in their eyes. as though they were looking at their prey. The mercenaries absolutely believed it. So long as one power made the first move, then the other thousands of profounders would charge over without the slightest hesitation. Shangguan Liuli let out a ferocious laugh as her plan worked. She threw a glance at the Shangguan clan's men. The leader of the Shangguan clan's forces was coincidentally the Shangguan third young master, Shangguan Fangyi. When he saw Shangguan Liuli, his face was filled with astonishment. He could not believe that his big-breasted, brainless sister would actually be so daring. Not afraid of Yi Qing Luo's powerful pressure in front of everyone? Who was the person in the black robe beside Shangguan Liuli? The siblings looked at each other. Shangguan Fangyi had a lot of questions he wanted to ask, but he couldn't leave the Shangguan clan's territory. If he were to make a move, he would definitely be the first to make a move. Shangguan Liuli looked towards his direction as she blinked her eyes, as she faintly touched her fingers, following that her vision shot towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. She no longer looked at Shangguan Fangyi. Instead her arm was forcefully pulled by the black-robed man, as a deep and cold hoarse voice was heard from under the black robe. Don't have any ideas. Since we've already confirmed that Yi Qing Luo has left the Ling King's tomb, then let's leave now. After saying that, the two figures in the air only had enough time to see two afterimages, and they instantly disappeared. The other forces looked at each other in dismay. There were a few forces who wanted to chase after the direction which the two figures had left towards. But they were all very clear. Chapter 899. Whoever subdued Yi Qing Luo first would have a greater chance of obtaining the divine relic. No one was willing to miss the chance to get a divine artifact. Moreover, the fifth Miss Shangguan had already brought out the Shangguan family to testify. That also meant that what fifth Miss Shangguan said was absolutely true. The Shangguan family didn't do anything either, did they? The various factions allowed Shangguan Liuli and the black-robed man to leave. Qiao Jin lowered his head and looked at the pale-faced Yan Xiaoyi in his arms as he clenched his teeth tightly and used the mercenary group badge to transmit his voice. Qing Luo, are you really going to let Shangguan Liuli off so easily? Are you not going to take revenge for Xiaoyi? Aren't you going to avenge Shijue? The mercenaries were puzzled. Based on Yi Qing Luo's current ability, so what if she killed Shangguan Liuli in front of so many people? Shangguan Liuli had colluded with the dark forces and injured their people. Death was a matter of course. Why did he have to spend so much effort to increase the bet with Shangguan Liuli? How could he let Shangguan Liuli leave so easily? Qiao Jin hugged Yan Xiaoyi's shoulders tightly. His usually mischievous eyes were currently surging with thick fury, his eyes filled with silence. Looking at Yan Xiaoyi in his arms, Qiao Jin felt a dull pain in his heart. He could not blame Long Yunzhan. Everything was because Shangguan Liuli controlled Long Yunzhan, which caused Yan Xiaoyi to be injured. Thinking of this, Qiao Jin even had the thought of tearing Shangguan Liuli into pieces. However, Yi Qing Luo had no intention to take revenge. Could it be that Yi Qing Luo didn't want to take revenge, and didn't want those who hurt her brothers to pay a painful price? Who said I was going to let Shangguan Liuli off? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes dangerously as her lips curled into a cold arc. Sometimes? The real revenge is not to kill the other party, but to destroy the other party viciously, making the other party unable to live. The last 8 words, Yi Qing Luo enunciated them word by word, as though they were squeezed out from the gaps between her teeth. In order to deal with her, Shangguan Liuli cooperated with the dark forces. Hurt her companions, hurt her brothers. Most importantly, Shangguan Liuli should not joke around with the brotherhood between them. He shouldn't have controlled Long Yunzhan and infected him with the profound Yin Qi just to watch a good show. Qiao Jin and the other mercenaries were stunned. When he caught a glimpse of Yi Qing Luo's sinister murderous intent, his heart suddenly lit up. That's right, Yi Qing Luo wasn't some cowardly person. Moreover, she was more protective than anyone else. Shangguan Liuli had crossed her bottom line. How could she let Shangguan Liuli off? Would killing Shangguan Liuli be enough to vent his anger? No, they wanted to see Shangguan Liuli struggling on the edge of life and death, unable to live or die. What did Shangguan Liuli care about the most? It was her status, her reputation, her everything. The reason why she was so arrogant and willful was because of the princess syndrome. Wasn't it because her own talent was extremely high, her mother knew how to fight for favor, and she had Shangguan Fangyi to match? In that case, what would happen to Shangguan Liuli after he removed all of her support bit by bit? He wanted to die in despair, but he couldn't die no matter what. Only endless despair accompanied her for the rest of her life. Qiao Jin and the others finally understood why Yiqing Luo made that bet with Shangguan Liuli. The so-called revenge, how could it be as simple as killing the other party? Jin Zi, bring the brothers back to the old residence first. Xiao Yi's poison must be detoxified as soon as possible. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as a glint flashed past, appearing unfathomable. Chapter 900. The mercenaries' expressions changed slightly. Once again they were conquered by Yiqing Luo. This move was simply too despicable. Not taking any action, just loitering around Shangguan Liuli? Didn't that mean that he wanted Shangguan Liuli to live in fear day after day? Just this unknown fear was enough to crush Shangguan Liuli's inner heart. This indeed made one feel much more carefree than killing Shangguan Liuli. There are at least 3,000 people around and there are quite a number of cultivators rushing over from afar. If we leave, how would those people let you off? After such a commotion, Qiao Jin's mind cleared up quite a bit. Although he wanted to carry Yan Xiaoyi back to the old residence, to let God Thief take a good look at her. But how could he possibly leave Yiqing Luo to face these thousands of people? Their motive is the God Relic. If they can't find the God Relic, naturally there's nothing they can do. Yiqing Luo didn't seem to care about those cultivators as she replied calmly. Qiao Jin's brows creased tightly. These various powerhouses obviously wouldn't let them off so easily. They would disperse if they couldn't find the God Relic? For their own ambitions, various powerhouses would rather kill the innocent than to miss any clue regarding the God Relic. Especially when Yiqing Luo had advanced under everyone's watchful eyes. There was a possibility that some people might think that Yiqing Luo had used the God Relic's power to advance. Yiqing Luo's situation was much more difficult than imagined. Don't worry, Xian is here. Yiqing Luo shook her head as her voice was transmitted through the metal, appearing extremely ethereal. She shut her eyes as she slowly descended to the ground from mid-air. Everyone's vision followed Yiqing Luo's movements. As long as Yiqing Luo showed any signs of acting blindly without thinking, they would immediately swarm up to kill them. After Yiqing Luo's legs landed on the ground, her charming eyes looked at Qiao Jin as she spoke seriously. Jin Zi, Xiao Yi's poison cannot be dragged on. There's a possibility that she has been poisoned by the Dark Force's special poison powder. If we don't formulate the antidote as soon as possible, Xiao Yi's life will be in danger. Her fingertips caressed gently as she fished out a red brocade bag from the profound phoenix ring and passed it to Qiao Jin. After you return to the old residence, try to make a trip to the academy. Go to the second floor's medicine refining room in the library pavilion and pass this to Ghost Doctor. I implore Master Ghost Doctor to save my companion's life. Given the current situation, she would not be able to leave for a while. She couldn't be sure if what Shangguan Liuli had said before she fled was true. The Ghost Doctor could cure the poison of the purple poppy grass. But if he added in the poison powder specially made by the Dark Forces, Yiqing Luo wasn't sure if Ghost Doctor would be able to concoct the antidote immediately. Unable to get the name of the poison powder from Shangguan Liuli, he could only place his hopes on the Ghost Doctor. Qiao Jin gripped the red brocade pouch tightly, his fingertips faintly glowing with a pale green. Mu Zifei stepped out from behind the mercenaries. He untied an ID token from his waist and also placed it in Qiao Jin's hand. With this command token, you can freely choose medicinal ingredients from all the medicine shops under the Mu family's banner. Qiao Jin still wanted to say something, but in the end he was defeated by Yiqing Luo's persistence. In the end, both sides took a step back. Qiao Jin and the others brought the 40 mercenaries back to the old mansion to help Yan Xiaoyi detoxify the poison. At the same time, they inquired about the progress of the other mercenary groups on this random mission. In particular, he had to pay close attention to Invincible and the Blood Fiend mercenary group. Another 20 over people went to search for the King Corpse's hiding place. King Ling's tomb was already destroyed and the King Corpse's array was also destroyed. Adding on the fact that he was injured in Dmo Xian's hands. If the current King Corpse wanted to capture him, he didn't need to spend much effort. Chapter 901. After arranging everything, Yiqing Luo shot a glance at Dmo Xian. A huge 9-tailed fox descended from the sky in an instant. 9 furry tails swept down, covering the sky and covering the earth. The hundreds of forces that had surrounded the area were instantly wiped out by this tail. The sudden attack came without any warning. All the forces reacted quickly and started to avoid Little Nine's tail. But when they saw this, when the pure white 9-tailed fox with powerful energy appeared, all the factions were stunned. 9-tailed sacred beast. Only one person owned it. That was Overlord. The appearance of the pure-colored nine-tailed fox indicated that the Overlord was nearby. Could it be the Overlord was interested in this god relic? The leaders of the various forces were feeling a little uneasy at this moment. If the Overlord was interested in the god relic, even if they fought to the death, they would not be able to get it from the Overlord. Whereas for those few powerhouses who were stationed in Three Springs City, their faces were pale as the gazes they shot at Yiqing Luo were filled with fear. There were rumors that Yiqing Luo and the Overlord had a close relationship. They had announced to the public that they were master and disciple. But anyone could tell that the relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Overlord was beyond that of master and disciple. Most of the profound practitioners from the various forces were filled with suspicions. While Yiqing Luo's mercenaries took advantage of the chaos to split up. Other than the nine-tailed fox's attack, all the forces were focused on Yiqing Luo. Naturally they sensed Yiqing Luo's intention. Just at this moment, a young lady's angry voice was heard from behind. The god relic is with her. She just broke through to the profound grade because of the god relic. The pig-like teammate activated the pig-like teammate's skill again. Although this sharp shout was not deafening, it was still enough to make one's ears tremble. The reliable profound practitioners nearby all heard these words. The god relic was with Yiqing Luo? And Yiqing Luo relied on the god relic to break through to the earth profound grade? What on earth was this god relic? It had such a powerful effect. Immediately, all the forces were fired up as their hearts were filled with excitement. Right? The god relic is with her. I saw her take the divine artifact with my own eyes. This matter has nothing to do with our death god mercenary group. I want to leave. I don't want to be in this place. Why are you looking at me? Yiqing Luo was asking her followers to transfer the divine relic. It's over there. Why aren't you guys chasing after it? Nangong Lin still wanted to scream, but Nangong Firen, who had reacted, covered her mouth and forcefully pulled her behind him. The god-slaying mercenary group had suffered a heavy loss this time. Nearly 40 people entered the tomb, but in the end only 5 of them came out alive. Those elite mercenaries were all dead. They walked out of the Ling King's tomb together with the world group. In the eyes of the various forces they were on the same side. For Nangong Lin to admit that the god relic was with Yiqing Luo, wasn't it implicating them? Even if she said that it had nothing to do with the Azura group. Would the profound practitioners of those powers believe him? Nangong Firen regretted bringing Nangong Lin along with her today. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.